The story of the great sage of Aristotelia is coming to an end. Together with the hero, he defeated the Lord Demon and devoted the rest of the days to the development of civilization and magical technologies. Now he is in the center of the crowd of his followers. With a light smile, she asks not to suit the show because he has lived too long. The girl claims that he defeated death itself, but the sage recognizes, despite the years of research, he failed to bypass. Death is inevitable. I wish her, he said, addressing a girl named Multer. She asked what she could do for him. Everything, she replied, holding back the excitement. If only allowed to touch her lures, added the old man. In response, Multer clapped his slap with a score. She called it the perverted old and threatened no longer to touch her. Others rushed to restrain the girl, but she continued to shout that he was the worst. One of the audience approached the old one and began to check the pulse. The voltage hung in the air. Someone whispered, "Was it the last stroke of the heart?" Panic was spreading. No one could believe what was happening. The great sage for life had a thirst for knowledge, and the same thirst for vice. In the end, this is what he lost. Even in the family, love and attractiveness have power, Roos said. When he called her Mom, he spoke honestly. Breasts and love are forces that cannot be measured. Something wrong? Aaliyah asked. Milna replied that all is well, although for some reason the baby causes her laughter. At this point, a man came out of the room and reported, "It's time to measure their son's mana." The baby shouted just. Halion asked if everything was fine, and with a smile assured, his son would definitely have a lot of man. The child was put in a measurement device. The hum was so loud that I had to cover his ears. Gailey asked that it was a noise. The man replied, "Mother's mana is equal to 3 units. Stunned, parents asked, "Is this true?" "It's impossible," Gailey exclaimed. "Even the strongest, 5 units. The woman swore that she saw the arrow made 11 full speed. Maybe not 3, but 103. "This is excluded," the man said. "The device drops the meter after hundreds. The sage himself built it. Even if you start a workout now, they have a very long time to normal. Families of raids and blahizels will not accept this junk." He approached the man and ordered everyone to inform that his mother had died at childbirth. Clear, no one should know the truth. He, trembling with fear, agreed. "We have to go," Gailey said, turning to his wife. On the threshold, she asked once again if he was sure. "There are still 3, the man replied. She slammed the door. A strange infant, abandoned by fate, lies in the cradle just in the thick thicket. It thinks that with such thoughts, parents would renounce him at the birth. He once met a man who remembered his past life. The world was catching, and he created a device that records memories and manu directly into the soul. The mother realized, not 3, but 103 units of mana, even less than in the previous life. The device worked ideally, but the result was comforted by the inventor. From the darkness of the forest, the monsters of the goblins came. The difficult steps were approaching a defenseless cradle. The shirt pulls his hands, and without a rod, magic is unattainable. But the side was honored. "Lord." The voice belonged to Lidorma, a dragon's rod, a beloved relic of a great sage who immediately dispelled the child's fears. The baby twisted. Lidvorn asked if he was dissatisfied, and he confessed that he was just hungry and missed her milk. The angry goblin rushed again, but Lidvorn grew in size and intercepted the monster even more decisively. "The contract will have to be revised," jokes the child. Lidvorn agrees and reminds that the new body needs a name. He did not have time to call him, as a monster collapsed a stone block, instantly turning it into porridge. "This is my maximum yet," Russ whispers hostile. Lidvorn is satisfied. It is quite enough for the baby. The guy's neck trembles. The muscles are fragile. The sharp movement can dislocate them, so Lidvorn advises calm. "How many years have passed after my death?" asks Russ. The rod confesses that he had fallen asleep and woke up among the ruins of the laboratory. Russ smiles. They are together again, and weapons, mana, and memories will allow to build a kingdom or gain invulnerability. Lidvorn only reminds, money is needed. First, milk. Infants need 30 milliliters every 3 hours. Lidvorn estimates that this will last 3 to 4 months. They laugh. This time it is worth playing a little with the world. The rod plunges into memories. Once a sage, writing a treatise, dreamed of defeating death. Lidvorn doubted, and the owner just smiled, drawing strength from the dream. The sage lived a busy life and did not regret anything except the unrealized desire to caress your beloved Milton's breast. He promised, in a new life they will get a dream and get immortality together. Lidwork believes a great sage. Everything is possible. Lidworn, after the death of the sage, assures Melter, "It remains here. Let the staff and dusted. The duty of the second is more important." Sleep will not overshadow his curiosity. Archimag died from Melter's impact because of his own lust, and Lidworn convinces her that he would have died so. Russ causes that in the body of the baby will be able to secretly visit women's bathing, and as it will die in the forest, indifferent. Lidworn quarrels to keep silent. Aristotelia was praised for brilliant discoveries and invincible magic, and history remembered how a greedy Archimag received a deadly slap from his subordinate. Under the tree, Roos is dangerously hungry. The belly grumbles as if death. Lidworn is anxiously asking about his state of health. "The ordinary kid would only cry," Russ crumbles. "But I should restore strength, and I thank myself for salvation. By saying the Pyphony password, it opens a sub-space. There are mountains of provisions and tools stored from the past life. Food for years." Russ rejoices. But Lidworn is reminiscent of milk. Anxious magical impulses are flared around. You need to act immediately. Looking back, Lidwork does not see the owner. Russ has already fallen to the chest of a huge wolf, taming hunger, and a flock is roaring around. With all seriousness, Russ proposes the wolf to become his mother for the duration of feeding, assuring that he only needs milk. The infant burst out, and Russ is frightened by the poison. Lidworn explains, "It is only air in the stomach. It is necessary to be treated more often." The wolf feels a powerful manu and is alert. Lidworn jokes about jealousy, and Russ skips. If necessary, he will get milk. Angry, she clicks the fangs, touches at least one of her 10 puppies. She will cut it. Russ nods cheeky. The 11th of the baby will not become superfluous, and sincerely surprises her anger. Grasping the staff, he launches search magic to cut the negotiations and get the desired faster. Vovchitsa explains. The forest is divided into 4 territories. The leaders have entered the Pact of Inviolability, because no clan will overcome the rest without loss. Russ, without listening, sinks into the creation of the world. The waves of energy forces the wolf to tremble. He recognizes the risk, but if the goal knows the place, he can snatch the whole sector. A baby who seeks milk will go for everything. Lidworn feels that someone is pushing a wolf to break the pact. Russ, passionate about the glow of the mushroom, laughs and does not listen. He feels the opinions of the authors of this sophisticated trap and burns with interest to see them. Lidworn grumbles that he is still a crazy magician, and Russ perceives it as a compliment. Meanwhile, the insidious monster who tried to lure the wolf reports a Chaklin accomplice. The child was not found. A complex illusion is useless. In a moment, the angry owner breaks the accomplice into pieces. It has been 3 weeks, Lidworn counts. Russ, still a baby, is amazed. Do they grow so slowly? During this time, Russ has not grown at all, still sucks milk. The wolf mother is still ill with inflammation. She rhetorically asks whether she is cruelly called her mother. The baby is almost blowing from the insult. Suddenly, the alarming scream is heard in the shrubs. The scout reports the attack of the detachment of oriental spiders. The words of Russ come true. The wolf finally believes him. The scout adds that the enemy is leading the leader of the East. Russ clarifies, "Does this mean that in every sector there is a leader?" "Yes," the wolf confirms, "and it controls the South." Russ stunned. His breadwinner is a real owner of the territory. It orders to bring the children to a safe place. Russ ended with a staff gently knocking a wolf gunman on his forehead. "Who would think that my mother is such an important person?" Vovchitsa does not understand what is happening, but Russ says to find a mushroom parasite, which was previously hypnotized by her child, followed by an oriental monster. She realizes with horror. This is the same magic of zombie. The enemy was preparing for a long time, and it is difficult to distinguish the infected. It is necessary to watch both friends and opponents. Everyone is not required, Russ reassures. Under the action of magic, the creature ignores basic needs, does not eat, sleep, is not afraid. Roos had already applied fears and saw who did not respond, so they will find the infected. He repeats the spell. The wolves are shudder and sit down as ordered. Wolf warns, even having defeated spiders, the tribe will weaken before the north and west. The spider leader is just laughing. He needs fresh red meat. To speak in vain, the wolf sighs. Spiders have never learned a civilized language. The massacre begins. From afar, Roos is watching a crazy battle. The spider sneaks Russia into the back. The staff instantly turns into a sword. The baby is skillfully waving weapons. Several spiders fall, cut into pieces. Roos notes that the wolves are still in the losing the enemy was ready. Lidworn says she has a plan. Takai, the staff advises. Russ is stunned, but Lidwork is logical. When the wolves grow up, milk will not become, and the risk of die now is too high. Russ must agree, but suddenly a shrill scream is heard. The spider leader bites the wolf paw. The poison paralyzes the wolf leader. She denies the loss of smell, does not seem. Russ rushes to the spider, but causes miserable damage. It evades the blows, Lidworn panic, but Russ asks not to interfere. The bloody wounded wolf is still raised. For my 11 children, I will tear you on a flap. The spider is stunned by its stability. Russ rejoices. Now she has recognized it to her baby. The wolf curves from restless grip. The baby swears to protect the family. Lidworn is reminiscent of mana exhaustion, but Russ is confident. The sorcery wave heals the allies and burns enemies. The wounds of the wolves are quickly tightened. Lidworn approves. Treatment is complete. You can rest. After the victory, the wolves argue. Some require expelling the Russians as a danger. Others defend it. Without a child, they would lie in a spider's stomach. And with it, they will be able to conquer all 4 lands. Russ, fed and satisfied, praises the milk of another wolf. But he jokingly suggests to visit more often. Lidworn notes with relief. Milk supply is provided. Russ announces departure. The wolf complains that he has set up a flock and blew its authority, but worries. Will he be enough milk further? Russ removes a bottle filled with night excess from other wolves. The leader grabs his head. Darkness! And even mucus from above. Russ only shrugs. The wolves, tied to the Russians, rush to hug it. The wolf will boil small, but her eyes are soft. It's time to go, Russ says, rises into the air and disappears behind the winged crowns. In a month among the wolves, he solved the structure of the divine sword and promises Lidvovor to return somehow. Perhaps to suck again Mamusini breasts. The staff will stop to stop, but Roos only laughs. His genius borders on madness. Lidworn is in a loud voice. The world is limitless, so sitting in place is to despise a new life. Will the baby let in the guild? Russ is convinced that it will find the city without age restrictions, and one indicative spell will prove its suitability. Staff is amazed at the choice. Did the heir of the great sage do not have to go the path of the scientist? Roos covers adventures. He remembers another reincarnated adventurer. Lidworn remembers that guy. Immediately after birth, he kept his talents and a thirst for research, and the laboratory almost did not know. Does Russ want to repeat his fate? Once upon a time, the young man thanked the old Aristotelian for the mission, and laughing, confessing. For 10 years he dreamed of becoming an adventure seeker. Let his sage call him by a pervert. Why did the influential person choose the adventurer paths? Archimag wondered. The young man replied, Power is indifferent. Instead, legends are born in journeys. Because even the strongest needs comrades and random quests, from simple little things to epic battles, give a taste of unpredictability. Aristotelian laughed. Starting from scratch and listening to living stories is a real pleasure. He almost jumped out of bed, asking him to take him into a detachment. The assistant was detained. 100 more experiments, and as many discoveries ahead. The translation is over, summarizes Russ. Lidworn listened to the middle only at the middle, but he agreed. The boy had talent and high hopes. Milk will also decide. Roos joked that he would find a detachment of charming adventures, which he will not quickly get bored with him. Meanwhile, the recruit girl raises an urgent announcement. A treasure, a robber gang, prisoners, and a bonus for the leader. Wharfing portrait is almost unlike the original. One of the men is feverish, calls her worthless, throws reproaches, not too wise in such a company. In response, the girl beats the abuser under the breath. The rest subsides. The cracking of relevant pain causes even the most grossing. The frightened supervisor protrudes from the office, quarreling on a noise. Next to him is a gorgeous seductress who puts a brazen in a place with one look. From there, Galeus keeps a newborn with a record 98 units of mana. He laughs proudly. Here's a real genius. Assistant whispers. Rumors go that it is a reincarnation of a great sage. It is necessary to remain silent. Even in the department they do not know about it. The prophecy of the goddess says, Aristotelia will return to the body of a mighty young man and reveal the secrets of the world. Maybe it's that boy? Milna is surprised, while remembering that the baby's real mother is a simple maid. She holds jealous and assures Gallius, "Let everyone think that is their child. So safer for everyone. For families of raids and blazels, it is a chance of a century. If a child is a truly reborn sage, their coat of arms shields shine with new glory." But Gallius is worried. He, an experienced magician, has only 66 units of mana, and the baby already shows 98, a wonder that destroys the usual hierarchy. What? How does the counter suddenly pass for 100? Is the mysterious event of 2 months ago when were it said, a new Aristotelian was born? The colleague is waving. It is impossible to curb the 100. But Gallius suspects. The stubbornness of the elders could make them overwhelm the true seer. Meanwhile, Russ with Lidwork fly over the walls of the giant city and enthusiastically view the towers. There is definitely a guild of adventurers. The staff advises to slip through a weak barrier, but Russ stops him. A lingual baby, and so there will be enough noise. We will go like everyone through the gate. At the gate, they see a girl of Fauna, who pulls the robbers chained. The prisoners moan, and she thunders, "Move, laziness! Your feet will still be needed." Russ, whirling in front of her, pushes thieves in surprise. "Does the baby really fly? Will you take me in your arms to go through guard?" he asks television. Thieves are clipping through their eyes without believing their own ears. The plan is simple. The Fauna on the hands of Russ seems to be ordinary infants. Lidworn grumbles that no one will agree. But the girl smiles. Why not? The hostage whispers that the baby is dangerous, but the Fauna gently presses the Russian to the breast. He explains. He says thoughts because the ligaments and teeth are still growing. Lidworn advises not to arrogate, but Russ is interested in the name of the lifeguard. Fauna, a member of the local guild, she replies. Roos seems to be Russ, 2 months from birth, a future adventure seeker. The girl is surprised by his independence. Now it leads to the city guard, and Roos asks him to register it with the guild. Interesting, laughs the Fauna, and heads towards the det which contains the guild. On the threshold, the reception is the next Elijah strokes the Russian on the head. He telepathically clarifies that he wants to take the exam. Elijah is shocked. There are indeed no age restrictions in the rules, but the test requires. Russ rejoices in the finds of this spark. It is clarified. The final word, according to the guild. Russ is ready to wait as much as it takes. As soon as the older one goes out, the baby demonstrates a quick flight, describes the circle and gently sits behind him, causing a storm of surprise. In the evening, Roos is looking at a small but cozy Hildmister's home and mentally jokes. The former pervert would never get here, but everything is possible in the baby's body. Lidworn doubted whether the home was needed. They say Russ survived 2 months among the monsters, so he would not freeze on the city bench. The apartment turned out to be dusty dust. The Fauna confessed that it rarely happens here. Russ assured that he would have no problems with food because he has his own reserves. The girl spread her hands. Unfortunately, milk in her chest was not left, though Russ still dreamed of a drop of her favorite drink. Fauna offered him a bed, and she was about to sleep on the couch. Russ was politely thanked for his hospitality and accepted a generous offer. Such warmth and care were in the novelty for him, and he was again advised that received a chance to rebirth. However, Lidworn intervened, announcing that he would not allow the owner to cross with beauty. The staff reminded that in the body of the baby, Russ will not be able to fulfill her adult fantasies, and any attempts will be wrong. Also, the magical power is weak, so it is worth focusing on development, not on seduction. Summed Lidwork, forcing Russ to smile only crooked. Russ quickly put a negligent barrier, but Lidwost easily repaired it, hinting that it is useless to break the protection. They were forbidden to harm each other under the contract, so Russ agreed to wait for the Fauna to leave the bath, but secretly intended to deceive the staff. Lidworn warned that an underestimated opponent could pay, but Russ took only a few seconds to extract another artifact from inventory. In a moment, the corridor shuddered from the explosion. The Fauna took it as a festive fireworks and continued to enjoy warm water. Meanwhile, in the main citadel of the cathedral, the parents of Russ reported a high priestess about the son of Henklai, with an incredible 98 units, mana. They assumed that the boy could be the most degenerate sage from the prophecies, and has already tried to recreate powerful spells. Meanwhile, Russ, having confused the door, flies into the bathroom to the Fauna, splashed with soot after the explosion, and gets a strict look. The naughty baby. While Russ fell asleep near the beauty, his real parents gnawed reproaches that threw the baby in the forest, losing his chance to greatly. The dispute became more hot, Everyone blamed the guilt on the other and made themselves for a long-standing decision. When the mother calmed down a little, she insisted. Even a ghostly chance should make them look for a son, because he has a great future. They decided that if the boy was alive, then he probably was already bathed in luxury, while Russ was enjoying the hot water and the proximity of the fauna. Fauna has announced that she goes for a few days to perform a quest and allows Russ to stay in the apartment. The baby is delighted with such an adult gift of fate. Russ regrets that the baby's body does not allow to approach the fauna, and boasts Lidvover. That is how he created a subsequent mana. The examiner grunts. Who will answer if the baby will cry? Take away immediately. But Russ insists. Participation in the test is vital for him. This annoys the audience. The boy is not at all surprised by their reaction, and the examiner hardly restrains the irritation. Russ notes that the basic ideas of his past life have changed significantly, so he decides to concentrate on the answers without worrying. He applies the magic of reading thoughts, produces the right options perfectly, wondering that the complexity of questions is radically different from what they ask others. The examiner is stunned. Guildmaster rarely praises someone, so it will be interesting. Russ intends to confirm the force in the next stage and rejects its skepticism. Tasks for endurance begin. Participants are given cards. It is necessary to collect labels at checkpoints and finish the first. Monsters chat everywhere. In the case of critical danger, you should consult a supervisory fairy of the flies and wait for rescuers. The examiner insidiously shifts the points of Russ, so that he physically does not have time to the finish, hoping to fail the self-confident infant. When they start, 3 immediately come from the distance, 10 remain. Assistants Lot and Lana announce that they will help the observation. Before practice, newcomers ask for a short pause, but most get a refusal. They are waiting. The Lot reminds. The path of the adventurer is full of dangers, so you need to be prepared every moment, without devastation. It is then that the hungry Russ grabs his chest. The girl blushes and says there is no milk, and the marsh examiner quickly units the scene. Lot announces the mission, to clean the goblins. Some of the students panic, others show determination to test the strength immediately. Russ warns, naivety will kill them all. Each real battle is unique. Opponents differ in power and tactics. It is necessary to immediately analyze the situation and look for the most effective way of combat. Otherwise, even the strongest adventurer will die. Marcia is surprised by the adult wisdom of the baby. Just so, they say, once a great sage was instructed. It reminds that it will not save them in difficulty. The cave is met by the stench, and beginners dream of finishing faster. The first goblin escapes. Several students rush to a little. A whole horde of goblin flashes in the depths, and inexperienced adventurers are horrified. They did not expect such a large-scale clash. Goblin, feeling numerical advantage, squeeze the ring around newcomers. A few brave men are mocking, they say. These are only fertile freaks. It's time to have fun. Marcia restrains Russia. You are still a baby, the first blow, and you will not collect the bones. But the boy already guessed that the teacher deliberately pulled the students on the ambush. She was certain that she was controlling the exam until the giant hobgoblin was raised with the darkness, and now everyone was in the mousetrap. In the summary of such an insurance word, Pale March, Russ asks if he will defend both students and his own life. The girl rushes forward, and Russ thinks in a way, what scandal will rise in the guild if the trial will end with a stupid death of tensed? Hobgoblin beats the march. Blood is filled with a shell. Shocked students are dying. The strongest mentor is overthrown from one attempt. The skill squeezes the sword. Such a creature is overcome by a detachment of a class. Now they are trapped, and there is almost no chance. It turns out to be Russ. Goblin Volodar is a coward. Now it will regret that he has not escaped with a fallen tail, and swear to punish the arrogant tyrant. He explains, it is enough to crush the leader to destroy the whole pack. In fact, the trap is Lord Goblin, not them. The examiner rushes Russ to retreat. Lana adds that even veterans tremble before such an enemy. The boy does not respond. A moment and Russ is already in front of Goblin Coral. A lightning stroke of the staff cuts on the skull, throwing the monster right to the edge of the cave. They fall directly on the lawn near others. Adventurers look around confusedly. Is Lord back? Not understanding what happened. The king barely rises when baby laughter is heard behind his back. The Lord's gaze causes panic among his subordinates, but the strength is already missing. Someone asks Russ, or is it not a miracle elixir in a bottle? The boy waves, ordinary breast milk, I'm hungry, and calmly sucks. Goblin Lord swings from the last forces, But Russ only lifts his palm, and the weapon crumbles on a rusty dust without even touching it. Compared to the army and 100 million I put in the past life, you are a pathetic little finger, merated Roos, and wins the hunger with a sip of milk. He falls with the only movement. The students rush to the wounded march. It is alive, albeit faded, and breathes. And, someone sighs, required recovery? But the wounds are already charged. Marcia is wheezing that most seekers fall out as dogs, and today they are lucky. She feels the heat. She is trying to get up. Russ has sprouted internal and external manu, starting the perfect regeneration, the formula that the march did not know. Russ asks if everything is fine. Marcia main is his carelessness, barely stuck that the baby secretly poured into her energy. Now her fear is replaced by a trepidation before the miracle. She announces, the exam is torn. It is necessary to order a recess, so she prepares the documents and asks Roos to put the seal as a special candidate. So at 2 months of Russia becomes the youngest adventurer in the chronicles of the guild, which causes a wave of grip and gossip. Rinrin jokes that you do not dare to him. Lana and Lot of the verse are discussing a quest about the abduction of children hanging on the board for years. Russ is watching the ad, laughs. Beginners, gathering herbs, see, and dreams of a great increase. Lana calls for lunch with royal chocolate parda, and the Lot cuts the budget into baked vegetables. Russ is indifferent. The main thing is adventures. Lot explains, the city is not so calm. For several years children disappear, and worth it is too slow until they find the body. The case was taken by newcomers and veterans, even a class, without a single hook. It is strange that they do not require redemption. The motive is unclear. Lot offers a plan. Pretend to be a family and walk the city, hoping that the offender will seem to be noble. They roll the trolley with quiet streets. The Lot grumbles that you need to go back to the dark, so as not to risk. Russ is a little angry, considering himself the perfect bait, and telepathically reassures his comrades. You are both strong enough. He did not see them in battle, but feels potential. Lana smiles, though the history of their past is frankly tragic. Lot does not seek glory, only thanks the city that once saved them after the death of their parents from monsters. After the orphan, they work for the guild, dreaming of finding the criminal and reporting to the ford to the director. Thoughts interrupt the attack. The Russians entangle the rope magic, throwing a cart. Lot and Lana shocked. Russ analyzes the weaving of magical thread. Theoretically, it is not destroyed by neither steel nor magic. It changes the basic formula. The thread flakes. The Russians break out, grabs the staff and rushes on the thief. Do you steal children? This is the lowest kind of violence. He rakes, and the staff burns with indignation. Lot and Lana run up, and the attacker disappears into the lane. Russ asks Rinrin to activate mascots. A piece of thread remained on the switch. The Lot reminds, this is a material evidence, and Russ prepares a spell, Find the Owner. Daddy Runa on his hand flashes and leads as if a compass. The Lot is surprised by the power of the formula, but the magic has already caught the trace. The hunt has begun. The Red Wars team gathered in the Guilder's office. Their leader asked about the essence of an urgent task. Guildmaster wondered, do you know Brad's director? The one who has been taking care of the orphans for years. Even Lot and Lana were once his pets. But what is this conversation? The leader was surprised. Guildmaster explained. Lot calculated the offender with the help of a magical thread that pointed to the kidnator. However, this is not all. Guildmaster stretched out a sheet. Get to know. They have already gone there. The team gathered immediately. The goal is a serial kidnapper who is wanted around the world. This time, grab alive or dead. The asylum director brought guests to the garden, wishing to find out all the details of the world order. Meanwhile, in the forest, the parents of Russ organized searches. Did you really throw him in that way? Nelma asked. Yes. But here, some kind of bumps? The same wolf who fed Russ came out of the shadow. Intelligence is worried. She is a lady of the South Forest, but why is it close to the edge? Her wolves ran up, sniffed Galeus. The smell was exactly like Russ. The kids hug the man, screaming joyfully. The wolf calls them back and glances at the arrivals. She is sure. Russ escaped from them, and done correctly. Milna asked if the boy was really rescued. One of the people shrugged. If you are not lucky next time, we will die. Let's return. At this time, the asylum director calls Badak for talking. He is suspected of involvement in the abductions. Badak wants to answer directly, to the lens. After examining the thread, the director confesses. he saw nothing like that. "It's just a thread," says Bedak, smiling at the children who run up. The children began to guess. Lace? Thread? Until the boy exclaimed the correct answer. After that, Bedak turned to the director of Brad, or rather to Zelch. The old man immediately realized that this cannot be discussed with children. One boy jumps on the back of a bat. "Let's play?" "Later," he replies with a tense smile. But suddenly the baby puts a knife to the neck of a Badak. He drops the boy from himself, but other children are already appearing around, all armed, with a crazy glitter in his eyes. They rush to adults, but the girl activates the magic of sleep. Children fall to the ground like bags. The old man praises magic, but adds that children have to gain real experience. This is not a problem. Control should be released. He wounds the girl, but her body immediately begins to heal. She thanks the ally, Hilor. The old one reminds, the name is important because Hilora should be destroyed. Only the Bannock remained on the field. Squeezing the sword, he rushes to the old man with the intention of causing a deadly blow. The old fossil of enemies with charms. None of the detachment of Beta could even shudder. The girl in a panic asked what happened, but only heard Lashama. The secret panel was moved behind. The stairs led to the dungeon laboratory, where flasks and strange mechanisms were torn on the shelves. The lot with Lana was numb by surprise. The lot immediately recognized the unknown formula on the wall. Lana looked at the remains. These are the paws of monsters, sewn. Swing the hall opened in a new gloomy room. Inside lay a giant split corpse, overgrown with a mushroom. Lot realized, without a special permit here do not stick. First, it is necessary to pull the suspect to the guild, but the old man had already kept a blower, threatening to crush. Butterflies on the web, mockingly spiked, letting children taste the first blood for 10 beats. Hylor shouted that it was in vain. The baby was ashamed. Suddenly someone ripped the cloak from the back of the sorcerer. Russ, squeezing the old and throwing her shoulders, punched the wall. The old one, which was in the stone, did not understand how the infant pulled him out. Russ followed, without letting his breath, and threw his body again. "What is the power? Who are you?" The sorcerer was scraping, getting up with fear in his eyes. He released the threads, but Russ played playfully, laughing at every smear. The attacks looked like old acquaintances for him. "Why do you spend Manu as if it were a trap, not a cutter?" reported Russ. The difference in energy consumption has given the idea. When the old man dropped forward, Russ suddenly bounced, showing how the threads can strengthen his hands. Creative but useless, he pushed. In despair, the sorcerer called children. Those surrounded by Russ with thin, like a needle, veins of death, and the old Hogus learned to kill arts. Roos slid between the blows, reading the alternate trajectories. He stole, washed the brain, teach murder. Zrenia, the children tired. The mana melted just in his palms. Finally the thread wrapped the Russian. The old man grunted, "Catching!" Rinrin appeared at once. "How to destroy staff." Children rushed to destroy, and the staff did not shudder, and the baby fell unconscious. The sorcerer got out. The thread is under control. Logically, Russ winked. The formula has already been rewritten. The best technique is destroyed by a change in one node of mana, Russ explained, demonstrating how easy it is to select a weapon from the one who does not improve the protection. The angry sorcerer grabbed a mask and caused a monster. The power of the Eastern ruler of the forest joined him, distorting the features. "Oh, are you a servant of Eastern Lord?" smiled Russ, recognizing a familiar aura of obsessive control. The sorcerer roared, gathering around deadly spirals. "Is not human magic, but a wild stroke of the beast mixed with his bloody art. Did you really survive when you met him?" The old man. Russ just squeezed the staff. "Now you will find out who really stood against your boss." The old man threw the spider web again, forbidding Russ even to look. But the boy answered a lightning counter Udar. "You said that you calculated everything." Russ threw when Lana and Lot flew into the hall and almost fell into the loop. He cautiously removed the tenet from the director. He was inadvertently settled on the floor, stunned by the horror of what he saw. Russ explained Lani, "Lavras will officially get a blower, because the detention of such freaks requires a state license." Exploring the ominous magical circle, he doubted no human seal would give rise to such darkness. Lot found a diary with a list of victims and notes of repentance. The director built a shelter, trying to atone for past bloody sins. But the morality decayed. The puppet that penetrated the city broke the souls of the children and put them on the path of murderers. Russ acknowledged, Without a fallow deer and a lot, he would not see a real puppet. And the memories of past life were glowing with a ghostly echo. To cut this circle, you need to tear the root of evil along with the threads that pull the innocent. Meanwhile, the girl was grabbed by the monster and kept in the den. She trembled. It is sure that she will be eaten alive today. It all started when the cattle fled. The cart broke, the girl was behind and found herself on the seam with fear. The carriage cracked, and the girl was sucked into the abyss directly to the mouth of the abomination for lunch. Panic was squeezed by her throat. She has already seen her fried, shake, and spread on bread. Suddenly the fauna rode. In one movement she cut off the orc head and the hand that clenched the victim. The girl fell. Sargot was cut on his leg. She whispered hoarsely. Fauna asked how she got here, and the roar of steps announced a new attack of orcs. Turning, the fauna was skillfully scattered another. Cutlet on bread? He jokes as if he were worried about the recipe. She confessed that she had tired and hungry, fulfilling the assignment of the Dolation Guild, which caused the delight of the girl. It turned out that the poor was late for the entrance exam. The fauna promised to accompany it to the city and protect it, but a sudden blow knocked the girl out of balance. The invisible force pulled her in the thicket, leaving the fauna with his sword. The girls were faded into the orcs, undressed, without weapons, with throbbing pain in the temples. The fauna only whispered, who left a naked life and black daggers. The Watk of the Orcas boasted the secret art of God, and an army that no one would overcome. Fauna asked who this god was interested in. Orc suggested that he swear to him. Then he would open the power of their idol and teach it to control it. He did not have time to reach out as Russ from Rinrin collapsed from above. The boy's face glowed with delight. One volley of the spell of Russ erased all the orcs. The blow was so devastating that the resistance did not even see. The fauna quickly returned weapons and clothing, and saying goodbye, invited Russia to swim in the evening. Return. The shadow was managed. The fauna pierced the invisible orc and explained to friends. The skin of the invisible breathes the magic of their god. She noted the enemy in the traces of the bite. Now he sees him even in the full invisibility. There is no point in the whole masking scarf. In the city of Badak, a bag of gold, a reward for Zelgius. Roos listed the coins, impressed with the sum, and Lana advised to leave a third. The fauna, smiling playfully, caused Russ to a duel. The guy shrugged and agreed. The audience came from everywhere. Kid Chudo against the most beautiful swordsman. This is not missed. The Baditsk team accepts rates. Some people say that the fauna is more alive than on ordinary tasks. And where is the lot with the fallow deer? The girl is called. Suspects that they dig again in the puzzles until others put money. Meanwhile, Lot and Lana explore a mansion where the magic is glued by numerous barriers. They feel like a sixth finger in a plaster. A prisoner under a prohibitory spell cannot pronounce a word about the puppet any mention cuts the inside, as if swallowed. The old man is hugged. Modern adventurers are too strong. It is time to lift the bar and get a real deadly technique. In the arena of Russ Smiles, Fauna is called to fight the full. The winner receives one desire from the vanquished. Aura of force lifts dust. The audience whispers if it is the magic of Roos. The Fauna flashed with the sword. Start the first, small. Commentators mention the march, red vars, and fauna. None of them have yet to overcome the miracle. They have all the powers from the director himself. Someone is surprised, not recognizing that the director has long been a different puppet. Lana mentioned that the director, although he had a dark past, gave orphans hope and taught them etiquette, not bloodthirsty. Unlike herself, she still eats like a barbaric. A girl laughed. Don't talk about it to the prince, she warned the lot. The children were so shining with joy at lunch that they did not want to destroy their faith. Meanwhile in the arena, Fauna barely kept, and having lost Russ, she confessed, "It was incredible," and she laughed at the sincere keef of the battle. Russ suggested teaching her magic. "We will add fire to your blankets." And Badak tore his hair. The bet on the Fauna lowered all the savings of his team. Rinrin incited. A typical great sage, the eyes shine not so much with a fighting spirit as, well, you know what? Hinted at the fair charms of the Fauna. The group ran into the band. The girl Ange, once a young girlfriend of Fauna. She clenched her hand with excitement. "Is that really you?" Ange immediately screamed and began to blame the Fauna for disappeared without a trace. Roos asked if they were friends at all. Yes. The sword nodded. Ange exploded. "You forgot about our duel day," and remembered the date when they had to find out who was stronger. The Fauna denied, but the quarrel broke out. The audience was bent, both young, equally successful, and instead of friendship, eternal rivalry. Marcia joked that the Amazons always keep the word fist. Russ whispered Rinrin who these Amazons were. Burning eyes, red hair, explosive character, and impressive forms, she briefly explained. The fauna exposed the blades. I will not accept your defeat until you are weak and not alone. Ans retreated. Tomorrow, without witnesses, and we will solve everything. When he came close, the Fawny whispered, Release the day, duel at dawn. But she just smiled. Understood. Fauna addressed to Russ. Teacher, where do we start magic? Let's first determine your inclination, he replied, proposing a simple experiment with water. Russ stirred the bowl and asked to guess whether the water was ordinary. The fauna confirmed without hesitation. He ignited a little flame. What do you see in the fire? Only fire, she replied. The thrown stone she predicted to split into 2 parts. Russ tossed the leaf. Eagle or relic? Fauna 3 times in a row predicted the result that the teacher intrigued. 10 times in a row is no accident, said Russ, concluding, its element is wind. Intuition is unmistakable. He looked at her channels. Circus is chaotic. It is necessary to reconstruct. Technology of his era would have long been engaged, but here they did not hear. Russ wondered. During his death, a lot of knowledge was lost for some reason, although little has changed technologically in the world. Let's make catalysts, he decided. Your double swords will become a key. Bring them, and get ready for formulas. Work is waiting. Rinrin is not just a staff, but a living catalyst. As soon as he removes, Russ will instantly turn into a regular infant without access to magic. The fauna thoughtfully stroked the healing hand of the girl from the orc raid. Russ, having noticed this, promised to teach to be squeezed tomorrow, just during the fighting. Free at dawn? He smiled. Fauna nodded. A day without missions, perfect for training and checking new techniques. Russ confessed. She is his first student in this era, so he has no right to disgrace. After all, magic, in fact, is the most fun science. Rinrin Tikasenko worried that Rus, under the guise of adjustment of channels, would take advantage of the power of the sword, but was silent loudly. However, in his soul he acknowledged that Fauna is now stronger than most local fighters, and can become a real thunderstorm Aran. After sparring, Russ prepared a simple dinner directly on the floor. The fauna noted that the victory adds strength better than coffee. She complained that it is exhausting to spend manu during the fight. Russ reassured. Later the spell would become instinct like breathing. First, food, then sleep, he said. After all, in the morning they are waiting for a long day of continuous practice and heavy quests. At dawn, Russ laid stones and scrolls on the stove. The fauna was activated by everyone, looking for resonance with their own mana. Finally, a clot of air was formed in a small dragon and flew to heaven. Russ warned, in the event of such a creature, it is almost impossible to catch up. Disagreeing, the fauna changed the wind runes, forcing the dragon to return to the palm of hand. The control of streams became her branded trick. With evidence of success, the skin of the mountain bear, the voucher of the gnome, and a couple of killing wolves, Tandem went to the guild to close the quests. The administrator glowed with grip, but suddenly the door knocked out an angry Ange, which flew to the fauna with a new challenge. A frantic duel began. The blows fell like a hail, and fauna patiently waited for a moment for magical counter. One accurate flash, and Ange stunned. The second consecutive victory of the fauna ignited the rival even harder. In a few minutes, all the strengths of the world gathered in the guilder's office, which was surprised by both Russ and the sword. Marcia barely kept an angry Ange, who was raging and threatening to flood the floor from her own rage. Guildmaster reported that Zelgius Akabret has received a monsteric force from a mysterious source, and such borrowed skills in the district are increasing. A traveling circle was found near the city. Anyone who will take part in the special task for investigation and cleaning shall be immediately allowed to the A-class exam. Roos was interested in the proposal. To obtain rank A is difficult. Permissions of the guilder is rare. The current owners can be transferred on their fingers. Ange was shining. Finally, the chance to show herself and crush the disgusting puppet to snatch the rise. The fauna was quietly watching. Marcia explained Russ. Between the girls, the usual rivalry from the first day of joining the guild. Despite the altercation, the fauna considers Ange as a close girlfriend. Guildmaster announced that the task starts in 2 days. Only the top 3 will receive the award. Lot with Lana was warned. The mission can be a trap. It is worth staying vigilant, even if the reward is attractive. Russ realized, the opponent is a demon. The agreement will be unusual and death can be chatted at every step. But the risk is worth it. The next day, the detachment reached the amazing cliff. The landscape looked as if it had been torn from another world. Having prepared the equipment, they moved through unknown lands. The most pressing was the lack of healers for such a complex raid. Russ mentioned the girl rescued from the orcs and asked how she found herself here. Kolta explained that she was captivated by a flying creature after a cart. After the attack, she escaped and fell into a thicket, surviving with a miracle, and the threads tied it to the appearance of a detachment. Fauna recalled, Kolta is a healer's self-tapping exam. She offered her support in the group. Treatment is peace and compassion, Fauna emphasized, but also reminded, on the forefront of doctors, hunt the first. Roos advised Kolti to stay in the rear, making healing from afar, so the chances of surviving would increase significantly. The strategy is simple. You can treat it while you can, and when it gets hot, retreat. Leaving in the city, she would never have revealed the talent. Kolta promised to lay out full. Marcia, as an examiner, had to decide whether to allow her to the ranks of adventurers. Marcia doubted. It is safer to become a city physician, because even laymen always need a healer. But Kolta burned the desire to grow. Everyone noticed in it a strange aura mixed with determination and something anxiously familiar. Russ suddenly stopped. Instead of the river grotto, which was said by the director Brad, only a rock. They surveyed everything and did not find the exit. Unexpectedly, Lana found shimmering characters on the stone. A real discovery for the detachment. Russ identified. It is sealed door under a masking spell. The seal is difficult and will take a long time to break it. This seal is likely to lies hordes of monsters who are able to equalize the city with the ground. Every beast is strong as a flock. The fauna even doubted whether she had missed something important at a briefing. It became clear. The enemy is a sorcerer who gives the murder the power of mutants and fused hybrids, so the quest is more dangerous. Russ called Rinrin and promised to squeeze the maximum of force to demolish the obstacle in one go. The explosion thundered, a stone crumb fell asleep. Everyone kept breathing, waiting for the dust to dispel. When the smoke melted, there was a numerous Russian with gigantic hands in front of them and all the same baby face. Stunned adventurers watched as the baby breaks the seal of the gate like a shell. There is no key. Break, smiled Russ. It's hard to believe that this rich man is only 2 months old. In the depth of the dungeon, the demon felt the rupture of the seal and the death of guard hybrids. Russ proposed giant embrace, and the girls were frightened with his paws. The detachment moved deep into the grotto. Badak went first, reminding, do not relax, the monster would jump out of where. Suddenly something was knocked down. Russ screamed Callie to retreat, and the fallow deer, to prepare treatment, preparing for battle. Your move, Russ threw. The fauna swept the gusty wind, charging a combo. Russ sleeping earth, wind and water in one volley. The monsters manifested, and the detachment quickly got them. Marcia pointed to the Hameleon and Stella Pansir Cabanol. Some screamed to flee, some to fight. The poisonous saliva of the orca corrupted the sword of a Badak, and the magicians of Tilda bounced from the skin of another. There were more problems. Anzu's fists, the fauna, sword. Girlfriends compete who will put the next Alche faster. Rinrin reflects attacks next to Russia. He whispers that the time to release the maximum, as in the battle with Spider. The Filda saw a glowing circle. This is a conscript seal. Russ, are you going to cause something? The conversation came about the wolf, the mother of Russ. Ans shrugged. After all, what she saw is too late. Is this our ally? Someone was surprised. The fauna explained that it is the mother of the Russwall, and the wolves are already hugging the small, rejoicing the meeting. Through telepathy, the kids were informed that they had arrived with their mother and fight next to him. Russ only smiled at their adulthood. The wolf flock rushed into the battle, following the mother and covering the backs of adventurers. Meanwhile, in the shadow, the demon watched his bizarre soldiers scattered. The emotions of these creatures are pure magic. He was looking for a spider body of Eerie Nara to recruit, but suddenly the desired prey appeared right in front of him. I will attach you to the army and bring the demons to the top of the food chain, he shook. Marcia noticed the retreat of the remains of the monster. She ordered the wolves to chase, but Fauna noted that the enemy fled. Russ felt a look behind his back. A miniature demon of the dungeon, the creator of baptized beasts, said it. Everyone froze from the breath of death. Only Russ asked with ease, are you a demon? Friends were scared, and Russ returned to the enemy. Now the baby will show what is worth it. What other demon? He was indignant. The lower form of life, Russ replied boldly. Rinrin confirmed the owner's words, and the detachment shuddered from such neglect. Careful, pathetic creatures, the demon roared. and a gray sorcerer appeared behind his shoulder. Russ, with a punch of the lard, was roaring the demon. He was angry. "Baby is still beating? Waterfall dragon," Russ exclaimed, releasing a wordless spell. Tilda faded from scale. The demon replied to the tornado trusado, but Roos and his eyebrow did not see a workout. Tilda was horrified by the eruption-like cyclone combination. The demon praised the spellings of the first class, but Russ had permafrost. The shocked demon felt the forces melting. Russ grew that the flaw of all demons appeared and knocked the enemy semi-conscious. Understanding the hopelessness, the demon tried the teleportation. Russ ordered Rinrin to go into the spear mode. The spear struck a demon dug. He stunned the power of the opponent, and Fauna confirmed with a smile, "Yes, our mentor is a real miracle." Russ asked the demon of what happened. Did he give up? He was silent. "It seems that you forgot that the demons have more than one heart," Russ grunted. The demon pretended to be dead. It stopped blood circulation, Manu, even streams of consciousness. But Russ was shaking it. Too late. He was exposed. And suddenly there is a flash of power. The body of the demon began to change. The wings grew. The figure became like a sinister monster. "That's what is horror," said Tilda and Badak. Rus Kolov. Such magic seemed impossible. The march breathed silently. "This is an ancient spell of dragons," Rinrin explained. He is not confused with anything else. Without spending time, the demon attacked everyone at once. The blow was so powerful that everyone received heavy wounds. The demon mocked, "You will not have time to cure. You will be killed." Rus understood. It is impossible to treat and attack at the same time, because the remnants of the healing man are distorted by combat magic. If heals, we'll lose the opportunity to beat for hours. With the body of the child and so limited mana, Rus knew he would not have time to save anyone. But someone should break through the skin of the ancient dragon. "Save up," the demon whispered. "Friends, both strength and weakness. That is why you all lose." Rus looked at the demon and then to Rinrin. "Full charge." But the assistant did not answer. The connection is weakened. Rinrin confessed that as a child could not reveal full strength, and he asked for permission to use the true form. Rus agreed. Once it was his brother's. He is worthy of a second chance. Rinrin read the thoughts of the demon and released all his strength. Rus wondered, "Is it sacred as Lebavard's staff?" "You will pay life for the abuse of your brother," Rinrin exclaimed, and absorbed by spells. At the same time, he activated a few. The demon was struck. The six-sided barrier appeared instantly. After the impact, Rinrin returned to his normal form and reported that he would fall asleep for a long time. Rus prepared a spare staff for him. "I swear that you won't seek any girl while I sleep," Rinrin muttered. Rus promised to think, but the demon is still alive. He smiled to himself. The body is destroyed, but it will merge with the new one. We'll start from scratch. The main thing? He fled. He justified himself. The director broke too. I just pushed. Everything you need is strong children to create chimeras. Zaloga has done his own, so he is no longer needed. The demon spoke of the old man. They say the weak generates only weak. Juan was angry. He only raised talentless children. He manipulated the magic threads of the green, intercepting control. His plan is to settle in one of them after escape, but I saw a strange ring in his hand. Rus changed the structure of the thread. The lot was smiling. She will wait for the order. "Demons are extremely living creatures," said Juan. "Can survive without water and food for centuries. People only dream about it." The lot broke the ring before the demon and wished him a long life. The demon tried to grab it, but they had already disappeared. The wolf calmly replied that the fugitives were already dead. Everything has long been resolved. Then she asked Rus if I met such people. He remembered. Once a man and a woman went to the forest and were not scared. They smelled in the same way as he. The wolf said, maybe the two were looking for. Rus promised, if he returns, he would come to her. But the wolf began to disappear, they say. It's time to come back. Rus realized that her time was exhausted due to restrictions. See you, she said. They were already waiting in the guild. After a brief report, Mark was stunned. Rus called the dragon, and Nimimarm destroyed the chimera. Badak confirmed. He saw everything with his own eyes. The head of the guild decided to listen to each individual. Badak suggested that Rus, Fauna, and Marsh will be recommended for increase. The Fauna used magic skillfully. The March is experienced and independent. But Fauna insisted, Russ, Ange, and Tilda deserve. Tilda kept away and supported Debafa. They were exacerbated by the Himalam with their intelligence, and Gilton calmly destroyed 100 orcs. Marcia, Fauna, and Shello have also mentioned. Russ suggested to take a common bath. Why not? The Fauna responded, and the company joked fun. The Fauna looked at Ange. Something tortured her, but she was embarrassed. It turned out that the girl killed more orcs, and chose only the weak. She asked to teach her to strengthen. How did Fauna so fast mastered magic? Will she be able to go the same way? She was decisive, ready to work day and night to become stronger. Russ and Fauna froze in astonishment. Magic opens new horizons in battle, said Fauna. I want you to feel it. But the room immediately shook the explosion. Someone broke, not allowing Russ to complete his plan for the development of the Age Force. Russ was surprised to address the unexpected guest. Bagamut, what are you doing here? He threatened girls, silence, or death. Returning to the creature, he remembered how much time had passed from their last meeting. Fauna tried to explain everything, now only mana quirk repair, nothing obscene. But he's a newborn. She was indignant. Bagamut swept the eye on the Fauna. The girl reminded, Russ is her mentor, only trained combat techniques and magic. The details were told from beginning to end. Bagamut, having understood the situation, called Roos a desert and licked in the cheek. She was shaken to leave the city, but Roos receded it. When is there such a beauty? Why should I touch others? He winked. The words were melted in the heart of Bagamut. She hugged him even stronger, and Russ ordered Rin to recover faster. In fact, Rin just returned to the base before sleep. She knew that she should disappear. A perverted master would be killed on all girls. Therefore, the crumbs of Monarus and intensified the restriction of the contract. So ended the happy corrupted life of Russ, at least temporarily. Fauna asked for the science of science to change the mana circula. Bagamut did not deny. Russ explained, the vision of mana and healing spells, training will take years. Meanwhile, Kolta wanted to get home with a roundabout, but the driver refused. The city was calling her destroyer vans. Russ appeared on time, encouraging her. You will become an adventurer, and again called a smile on her face. But Bagamut picked up the Russ. It's time to go because the minutes come. Ange waited, faded. Russ jokingly ordered to undress for a more accurate inspection of mana channels. The pellet was numb with horror. Ange grunted that the clothes did not need to be dumped. Russ assured, joked, otherwise Bagamut would be angry. The procedure for recovering the mana circulating Roos compared with vascular overcoming. The flow of energy should first be visualized. He showed on the Fauna, see how the wind flows its channels. Ange looked, fascinated by her own desire for power. She exploded with jealousy. Always herself, always the first, but this time falls behind. Annoying. Kolta clapped her teeth, ready to endure pain. The Fauna reassured her and allowed Russ to start. The main thing is to see the mana flows, she smiled. Russ corrected the channels with his hands. Kolta glowed with happiness, and the teacher himself calmed breast milk and watched the show. Aaliyah, shocked, remembered how she almost killed the opponent. The guild then laid a ban. Now Guildmaster ordered to seize and stop a half-year. Finally, Khalid completed the Tilda Mana Manao chart. Roos, watching, praised, perfectly, talent. Khalid shone with happiness and confessed that he had once been taught by an old culture. Tilda immediately tested the strength, punched the ceiling with a fiery ball. Not bad, Russ said, and Tilda was frightened by a powerful charge. Russ proposed a reinforcement massage. Tilda is skeptical. If this massage magic explodes, the word reinforcement is too soft. Kolta asked if others could also try. Russ replied, the more practice, the better. Tilda had already dreamed of inviting her whole team. The girls were waiting for Guildmistra in a special training center. Time for greater preparation. There was Deller the Heavenly Spear, Ograkolos, which half a century ago made a notorious researcher in one blow. The rules are simple. You need to hit. We do not guarantee safety, Guildmaster warned. Even in old age, the OGR remains deadly. Ange sighed. The longest week in life, it would be easier to die. The Fauna nodded. The master does not know how to spare. Suddenly the Fauna disappeared, and the next moment was in front of Ogrom, almost hitting him. He had time to bounce. The OGR was surprised. The test almost ended in a second. The earth shuddered. Ange laid the earth spell, and the Fauna picked up the Cyclone Kinka. Guildmaster barely restrained combo. He acknowledged their merits, but the girls did not listen and continued to burst on both sides. The frightened master shouted, "Enough!" Component placement. But Fauna denied, "The enemy is beaten until he exhaled." Ans added that some attack even without a head. Guildmaster understood. Bad things, tried to escape, but he failed. Promotion that he was being killed, he was calling for help. Russ from Kolta was quietly observed on the side. Nostalgia, Roos smiled. Previously adventurers were also inflammatory. Kolta asked where it was, before. Roos reasoned if Deller would die. He decided that they had overtaken the stick and called Bagamut, but instantly appeared and triple bit was dumped by the girls on the floor. "Heavy bodies," the Fauna grunted into the floor. Russ, smiling, asked if they liked their own strength. "If there is little," he explained, "we will continue next week. Training will only intensify." Delier, examining the semi-consciousness, only sighed. "This is quite enough." After confirming the increase of the march, Kolta again caught up with the proposal of massage, convincing that it would strengthen her magic. The frightened girl tried to escape, but the march is unwavering. Lot shared with Russ, stories about a baby class will be thundered in tavern. Russ would gladly pour more details behind the Elu mug. He recalled the lot. The tattoo will return when needed, but now quests are the case of others. Director again for people. Lana and Anj improve equipment. Russ promises support for the city, and Watts sees in it a sage of past days. Russ is charming over Watts Peter, when Anj already leads everyone to a cart ready to move. Badak and his team are waving after the guild prophesy of unheard of glory after their collective takeoff. The queue does not subscribe to Kulti. Everyone wants the mana massage after rumors about rapid success. They argue to whom the first to become stronger. Russ is aware of her thanks. "This is your merit that is trusting me." Watts reassures self-criticism is superfluous. Or not, Russ has benefited. On the way, they practiced magic and combat skills. Helped every permanent court. The attacks of small gangs became only a workout. Russ asked Fawn if he was amazed by another victory. But she confirmed enthusiastically, and Bagamut rejoiced in the owner. Russ kept the balance of magic and could finally focus on real battles without being distracted by the little things. Finally, the Temple of All Adventurers, a majestic building that always captures the pioneers. The Fauna shouted with joy and almost moved out of the window. Russ lifted her to look better. He showed another majestic Bagardia, the city of dreams, where the fate of adventure seekers will fate. At the entrance, another test. Candidates are attacked to check the reaction. Who does not evade, the exam will not be difficult. Morty, the deputy arch, apologized for the harshness. Such rules, weak do not pass. The arch watched the recommendations. Russian, Fauna with paired swords, Anj Boyovicha, you should not joke with them. Russ assured, the test will pass. Two executives were stunned. A child is a rare sight. The Fauna rolled her eyes. Get used to. The Ark acknowledged, if they chose donations herself, then the potential is huge. And everyone listened to his words with genuine attention. The test is waiting for the test, so they can choose any free room. The Fauna thanked. The Ark, leaning the young people with an assessment view, ordered the deputy to hold them in the city center, and he reluctantly agreed, ordering the Trinity to follow him. An introductory walk began. The conductor led them with intertwined streets, showing sign places. The girls were enthusiastically catching a colorful showcase and an unusual architecture. The Fauna poked her finger in the store and wondered if it was souvenirs. Morty replied that the sets of Menuji Arch are now in fashion, but most often they are bought for quests. Then the travelers stopped at the weapon shop. Huge swords and meadows shone under the sun, causing delight in Fauna and Angie. Smiling, Morty explained that it was only a decoration for the holiday of giants. Further, the narrow street lured with aromas. Here the cuisines of the half-world are collected, and Anya immediately had to flow saliva, inhaling the spicy odors of unknown dishes. They tasted for a long time the local eating until they got the area with a wonder. A platform where entertainment was based on magical artifacts. Moded suggested trying, and the girls went there happily, and he sat down with silent Roos, noticing anxiety in her eyes. Roos quietly said that she was fond of his choice, to leave the forest and serve the city. A bold step that probably gathered many critics on both sides. They were interrupted by passers, in surprise to ask why Morty is here and whether he wraps the child at the order of the Arch. He only replied with a smile that it was part of his duties, and oriented them to the nearest pharmacy. When the people departed, Roos breathed heavily, calling them a bunch of half-lifts. Morty noted the change in her voice and leaned closer. He explained that the neighborhood of Ras, with different life expectancy, is already everyday life. Big cities are crowded with semi-lives, while purebred are mostly left in the forest. Once upon a time, the elves were despised because the elves looked at the people from above, and one high elfian, a student of a strange magician man, broke the discrimination long before her appointment with the ruler of the forest. Her act opened the path to the current generation to live with people. When mentioning the great Melter Roos almost called, this queen was a student of their great sage. In the meantime, Ans, shining, stated that everything was here. The fauna stretched her sweet cotton wool, loose like a cloud dessert. Roos noted that the instructor only consumes milk, but suddenly remembered something of a powerful magic stream in the local dungeon, where merchants of rare materials come. The merchants are moving here for their families, new quarters, jobs are emerging, and the city is gradually turning into a real miniature universe. Morty stressed that work is not only for adventurers. The girls looked in surprise, and Ans flashed, "Does he hint at the adventure?" Morty tilted his head and told him to follow him. Something important was awaiting ahead. He showed a wall of memory. A young magician Rufus, broken by orcs, and Lena, who survived the test only for the sake of life in a spider nest for 20 years. His hearts that squeeze the heart. Morty warned, if they remain on safe quests, the threats are minimal. Hurry and high ambitions will only open the tragedy door. Do they still seek this path? All three answered unanimously. There is no fear. The desire has only increased. Anj smiled. She is here to fight the most gripped monsters and become Adventurer Class S. Fauna added that she likes to help people and take difficult challenges. And Roos wanted to start eagerly, because otherwise friends would lose the passion. Morty sighed and accepted them for testing, explaining that he sought to persuade them to retreat. Fuzzy answers or doubts would be sufficient reason to say no. Even 1 or 2 decades can change the world. Once 50 years have transformed the provincial settlement into a flowering metropolis in 50 years. It would be painful to see how the young people will break the young people, so they wished good luck. He urged to stay away from the mad risks. The labyrinth ceiling rose much higher than the depth of the passage, a paradox that no one had an answer. The stairs were stubbornly further under the city's face. Roos smiled. This abyss giving new secrets every 8, and with every turn, the dungeon becomes grittier and more interesting at the same time. But they did not know that the horrors were waiting not only underground. It was strictly forbidden in this city. Suddenly, a giant mountain worm boss rushed out of darkness. The examiner took a blow on himself and instantly put a monster, forcing everyone to numb from shock. While the whisper was extinguished, he strictly ordered to remain silent and appreciate the salvation. The monsters here are many, and the boldness costs life. In addition, not only animals, but also strange people were dangerous. The examiner returned the conversation to the case. Their mission, to transport a specific beast. One contender was praised by knowledge, a reptiloid mimic that lives in humid grottos and hunts in insects. He has already tracked the prey among numerous hiding places. Convinced of his own genius, the guy put the magic of acceleration, but overestimated himself. Another predator emerged from the ground and swallowed the zip instantly. A couple of searches collected fungi parasites. Their spores are quickly devouring the carrier, but the girl was late, and the local summer adventurer called her careless. He tried to look at the rock projection, jumped, and crashed into an invisible trap, a legendary transparent membrane, through which many travelers died. The fauna caused the swallowing of the wind, which cuts only the fabric, and released the girl, leaving the one without clothes, praising the eccentric author of the author Char. Meanwhile, Anya released a man pressed with the same glass. He trembled, but she ordered to stay, because now he would send him to the examiners. Emily did not go faith. There are too many wounded. Old Mag was amazed. Experienced adventurers rarely move so deeply. Bruce, meanwhile, tried to save the magical grass that faded under the stone. After focusing, he felt the threat and looked around. Crawled a flock of lizard amphiphesben. Suddenly, a naked ghost girl appeared in front of him. Bruce rushed, but the illusion melted, leaving Hugs empty. Here he was swallowed by a mutant frog, but he broke it from within the mana's explosion and got almost unharmed. The examiners were extinguished. They have not seen such chaos during the trials. The Trinity achieved the victims to the headquarters. The fauna commanded to watch the patients, and the confused warders urged to remain silent. The details of this slaughter should be kept secret. Knowing where the lizard hid, Ruse immediately flew there, ordered the girls to wait. Did they look in surprise? Are he serious? Anya wondered what his heavy shields were made of because their origin seems to be hidden. Ruse looked at Jane with his former annoyance. These are weapons against people, not for dungeons. A small crack after a fight with a worm proves that their level means almost nothing. He looked at Emily. The barrier she put had to create a safe zone, but when such forces, he seems superfluous. Moreover, the area is protected from search magic, although external threats are not relevant here. The first reaction of the girl is earthquake magic, which immediately destroyed the monsters underground. One of the creatures even complained to Bahamas. He recognized the situation and applied the answer. Jane reminded that it was only the first stage of the test. Another girl appeared here, who wondered how many lizards were such a surprise. With a confident look, she continued to surprise everyone without hiding her own greatness. Overlooking them, the girl said that the suspects were at the entrance. Jane was surprised. How did she succeed? But the examiner looked intrigued. When asked about name, she called herself with a smile. Jane. Ruse has distrustfully asked how she found them, because the external knowledge and magic of search did not work here. Jane said all is well. They told her, who exactly? Adventurers who died in this dungeon. Does she hint that she hears the voices of the dead? Amazingly. She assured her that it is not surprising. It's cool. Ruse seemed to believe. If it was possible to hear the dead, he would have studied it in his past life. Jane said that the first phase was completed. An hour. Then they plunged into even more hot areas. The air was thick. It is difficult to move. Ruth could not take a look away from the girl's chest. It was amazed that there could be such a hellish heat under the forest. Fauna noted that even just staying here, and during the battle it will be twice as heavier. Anya was indignant. Why are they so calm? And why look so attractive? Fauna replied that their teacher was a solid charisma. Ruse explained that it turns Manu around him into ice, which lowers the temperature. Anya became angry. What to do? She turned to the Fauna. Give me a baby, I'm too hot. But she refused, to keep the teacher in her hands, her privilege. Jane just smiled cunningly, looking at their passion. Anya clung to Ruse firmly because she was getting worse. She exclaimed with delight that she came to life. It's incredible. The Fauna only nodded, agreeing. A monster appeared in front of them. Emily stated that this is the second stage of the test, testing combat skills. Jane suggested that he destroy the fire golem. This would be enough. Whoever strikes the last blow is indifferent. It is better to hunt a monster than a boring puzzles. Jane threw a smile with a smile. Fauna added, just not a competition for ingenuity with an invisible enemy. With a light derision, the girl asked if it was all the task, and added that it was better to prepare. Jane immediately stuck her. The exam continues. Everything turned out to be part of the trap. They stood just on a real golem. His hand rose and the girl threw away. Ruse, to save it from serious damage, instantly applied magic. Jane did not even have time to answer. The blow came straight into the chest. The pain was real and terrible. After a burning blow, a few small fiery goals broke out around. This is how a broken fragment of the true nucleus is manifested. Fauna with comrades instantly lined up in the battle, indifferent that Ruse did not interfere. While Jane was still chained to the ground, the plump baby smiled at the girls and warned, until the giant goal falls, his servants will multiply faster. The hot air depleted the detachment, but the hero praised the idea, which even the black dragon Bahamut recognized as perfect. The girl surprised why Bahamut did not interfere, and suggested to join the overall storm. At the same moment, the giant Rocky dilated from above, and the girls jumped elastically, avoiding the devastating scope. The annoyed Anja realized that she was not so moving so far, and feverishly was looking for a new way of attack. They mentioned the teacher's advice. The victory will come only after the destruction of the crystal heart, before the heat will drain them to the edge. The gaze stuck into the shining crystal on the chest of the golem. The Fauna decisively rushed forward, despite the comrade's warning. The protagonist considered her reckless, but the girl had already used sharp air equipment without listening to anyone. The explosion stirred the tunnel. The shockwave picked up the Fauna and rolled up, scattering sparks and rocks. Anya rushed ahead, but could not reach the colonel and exhale, cursing powerlessness. The Fauna felt the darkness of the defeat in the soul, and decided, without a new victory strategy. Anya dispelled the girlfriend's despair with a straight blow into her face, forcing everyone to die from surprise. The beaten but smiling Fauna rose as if reminding, the defeat exists only until you lie. She quickly rethought the plan and reported Anje that she had an idea for a decisive jerk. Fauna brought weapons, asking Anya to focus all power and support the attack. Combined magic made it possible to artificially create a whirlwind in windy heat, increasing the blow to unprecedented power. The crazy rotation added the pulse, turning their splash of force into a real storm. Anya managed to shout a warning about a new heat wave, and the fauna silhouette has already dissolved in a dazzling outbreak. After reaching the crystal, the fauna remembered the lesson. The mentor does not create a cold with a spell. It turns the manu that wraps the body into a pure ice element. He said, "Do not surround yourself with the wind. Become him." The fauna imagined a hurricane that crashed sharply into the target, and this picture flashed in her eyes. Heavy blows struck on the golem, and the stone debris flew on all sides like a fireworks explosion. Anj, exhausted with heat, kneeling. The examiner rounded his eyes. They really overthrew the Titan's fiery. The mysterious woman was back from behind, but the staff of the ruled hit. The baby Draken turned. He felt that something was wrong. The hero understood. The creature before them exceeds even S-class. Ordinary adventurers do not resist him. He said Bakamut that this creature should be taken alive. Questions and ideas have accumulated too much. In the guild, they were caught. After the first stage, 3 survived 3. And this is a sensation. The elf came up with a friendly smile. Fate smiled. Rest, food and drink await you. According to the summary, 4 were killed, the rest was reflected. Someone, chewing the meat, grunted that 4 moved on, but their actions did not take into account. The baby, hanging in the air, glanced at the girl and asked, "Who are you, Sister Jane?" In response, he sounded only her evil funny. She lowered her foot and apologized. She had to kill Jane and Emily with others during the trial. The baby wanted to explain. She promised to reveal everything if he could kill her. Without spending time, Rue accepted the conditions and attacked. The baby wondered. He attacked so sweetly as playing. At the same moment, the baby's figure was cut by the air, winding, and the fiery sickle cut the girl's lightly. She barely had time to regenerate. As the staff of the hero collapsed 100 beats, the order was made mercilessly. But for some reason, a smile shone on her face, and the baby was predatory. The staff whispered to the owner that this girl is not absorbed. This is its difference. The boys behind the baby's back wanted to make sure that everything was fine with him, but the hero stopped them with a gesture. They did not have time to say as the baby ordered, "No time, retreat!" And he clicked his teeth, calling the staff to move. Rue struck a devastating blow that had to kill the girl instantly, but also responded only with silence, an incomprehensible look. It seemed not to be a person, but something else that only puts on the human likeness. Ruse felt a shawl in the blood and decided that it became interesting. It may have answers that he would not even get. The girl confessed that his terrible physione was scared. Both rushed into the frontal clash. But the baby decided that she would not get the laurels of victory. He would not allow to finish the battle in her favor. The rival smiled, returned to Ruse with her back, and promised everything later, as if it were a simple debt. She realized that she would not do him now, and regretted that she did not prepare a more right moment for murder. Rue's caution exceeded her expectations. The girl asked why Rue stared at her even at the time of death. He smiled. From the beginning, something in it seemed unnatural. His vessel of the spirit did not respond to its presence, which seemed strange to him. Jane just shrugged, not understanding the hint. He was in front of an attractive girl in a candid outfit, but his libido detector was silent. He first wrote it on her flat bust. The kid glanced at his way up. The miniature forms were also charming, but the boiler of the soul was silent, and it was embarrassing him most. He trusted the vessel more than the head. If there is no reaction, so it is too foreign, and let it realize it. Jane boiled, to suppress Ruse for all female images, and the baby just laughed. He is not told for the first time. Suddenly the staff trembled, but Ruse did not understand why Bahamut was so worried. Hamlet Pity wondered how the owner did not hear a sharp whistle from the side of the girls, at a frequency that cuts a dragon hearing. Ruse suggested that it was a sound for dragons, and instantly turned where the comrades remained. He saw the unconscious fauna. Friends assured that she would live, though her leap into hell was a real frenzy. Meanwhile, on Zudi, she bent. Hein asked not to overstretch. The nucleus of the golem is stronger than her. The miracle that she was still standing. The fauna opened her eyes. Quietly, but she felt an underground whistle. Ans looked around, looking for a source. From the darkness, the head of a huge dragon jumped, spreading his mouth in a dangerous smile. Ruse recognized the burning red dragon and whispered, "We leave at least a meter." He barely stepped when Jane appeared behind her back and said quietly that he would not miss him further. Roos sounds Emily to activate the teleporting stone, but she replies, "The time for launch is no longer left." Jane threw a piece of her own legs with the rebels, and at the same moment, along with the trophy, dissolved in his hands. The sheet was missing, and the girl was silently disappeared. A huge radiant sphere was formed before the heroes, which overshadowed everything around the dazzling light. The girl with a cold smile stated, "They are the rebels that would destroy all adventurers of this city." She believed that this would continue. Jane blossomed in a smile, her dating comforted. The head begins with a creepy scene. The dragon cries so that the earth trembles. Jane smiles, but in the eyes of Roos, anxiety. Roos turned to Jane and ordered Bahamas to neutralize the red dragon. He exclaimed his name. Bagamut was suspiciously looking and confessed that he also loves an evil master. Roos was discouraged and recalled angrily, "Now is not time." Hamat tried to reassure his beloved owner, reminding that Mr. Dimple's shields block the detection, and his saliva denotes enemies forever. "They indifferent whether they are alive or dead," Bagamut added. Roos looked at him thoughtfully. Word with Ans and others arrived at a certain point. He squeezed the staff and was glad that he was not late for the events. Mortia calmly announced the emergency. "The exam is cancelled." One of the attendees was indignant. "It was never, even with a red dragon. This time, it will be for the first time," Morty said, and advised everyone to return to the guild faster, but someone denied. "The second wave is already approaching." And indeed, in the distance, the roar of the dragon. The boys looked around and saw an arch with katana that was rushing on it. On his face, a deep scar. Obviously, he had to endure a lot. Seeing this, the old man immediately jumped from the dragon. The rebels were scared to see the arch near the boys. The old man seemed too strong, so they decided to flee. But the ark did not allow. With a gloomy expression, he said that he was not so far away. Katana was instantly inserted into the soft body. Roos was clogged. He personally planted Jane in a cage that remained whole. How did she escape? Ark looked at her suspicious, thinking that it was a joke. Otherwise, how did she find herself here? Jane screamed to the rebels to activate the teleport. Those replied that the process had already been started and a few seconds left. The old man grabbed her for the mutilated legs, not letting it out. But the girl smiled, and with a frantic glitter in her eyes tore off part of her legs, almost cut by a katana. Blood flooded the earth. The pleasure in her look was scary. The arch was frozen in horror. The old man with sadness admitted that he had missed it. Mortari ran up to check the condition of the mentor, and the ark, pressing his palm to the forehead, whispered about the approach of the disaster. He warned that the monster returned and grew to a more terrifying scale, turning into a threat that they had not known before. Bruce raised his eyebrows and, shaking, nodded, agreeing with the bitter joke of the arch, that old age sneaked, as if she were anxious former. The scene shifted to the guild. The detachment was in the first medical department, where a worried infirmary of the people fussed. In the Anja house, she exploded through the abolished exam, confident that their victory over Golem was worth the continuation. The warders were in vain to pacify her. When asked about the missing mentor, the girl shrugged, throwing a joke, as if he was hunting for lush charms again. The fauna smiled, supporting a cheerful lift. In the conference hall, 7 leaders listened to the arch. Rebels, the union of fierce enemies of the guild, seeking its complete destruction. The gray-haired counselor noted that it was too bold for random opponents. Morty suggested that everyone was governed by Jane's mysterious. He severely summed up, "The woman undoubtedly hides a dangerous secret." One of the magicians suddenly exploded with hysterical laughter, foam made on his lips, as if he were stirring invisible demons, belkative about the magic of the resurrection and immortality, forces that go beyond his knowledge and control. His passionate curiosity required formulas, etheric spectra, and discovery details. Bahamut watched, noting the unrestrained passion of the sage. Zbran announced Sneal about the failure of the operation. They only learned that the enemy was preparing something. The girl waved away from pessimism. Zbranu warned that the delay could disrupt their plan, and Snile interrupted him with a question that did not rest her. She wanted to know about a strange infant. Zbran suggested that he was a child seeker, but Sneal insisted, "The baby killed her a dozen times." He did not believe it until she listed the horror, from a torn head to broken bones, without the slightest exaggeration. Snile ordered the acquisition of full information about a mysterious child, although she begged herself no more. Ruse sought a new duel. Fauna explained that the burial of the ram sucks vital energy and can only be restored over time. Instant spells are in vain. She added, after one bite she was barely moving. 100 bites would be killed for sure. But Jane survived miraculously. Dan shuddered and translated the conversation to another. Anya was approaching Roos, who had led on the table, littered with thick folios, and seriously wondered how many days he was already in self. Turning, Roos spoke that if he was so seeking to sleep, then you can lie down and have breastfeeding, falling asleep instantly. The fauna calmly agreed, shocking Ange. After spreading her hands, the fauna called infant in the arms. They say, a healthy sleep is vital for toddlers, and it will not interfere with it. The baby jumped, but because of the miniature height did not reach and whispered under the feet of the fauna. Raising him, fauna noticed that he was quietly snout. It was enough to relax, and Ruse immediately became like a real child. Suddenly the silence broke a strange roar. Anya moved to check what was happening, and a shabby man appeared in the door. The stranger muttered feverishly, driving away people, and at the same time pleaded about the potion, without which he was getting worse. Anya called him inadequate, and Fauna pointed to Roos that she clung to her breast overly zealous, causing righteous anger to her girlfriends. The angry Anja threw the baby high up so that she would not touch her treasure. Roos landed directly on a stranger, strengthened the blow of a mana, and took out his forehead, instantly knocking out consciousness. The man fainted, and Roos, without realizing the reasons, asked what had happened. Surprised people were already surprised, and Emily leaned over the victims. She noted that when Ruse was here, somewhere nearby and red with blue, so she asked the girls to help drag the adventurer to the infirmary. In the medical department, the elderly doctor sighed, again dependent on the elixir, and ordered him to put him on a free bed. The fauna was surprised to the scale of the pose. The doctor explained that the forbidden drink from a dangerous magatrava enhances manu and endurance, removes pain, but causes terrible dependence, hallucinations, and paranoia. The most paradoxical, distributors do not take money. Bruce wondered why it was them, and the doctor clarified that they were taking another. She ended the opinion. Years of life become a fee. After examining the young man, she determined that therefore only 23, and his name was Roy. Shaking her head, she added, "Youth is invaluable and does not return, so it is a crime against her own future." The most frustrated, the doctor continued. The potion became popular with beginners and former stars of the guild, which is towed on the quests of the Arch. Fauna thought about who needed a foreign life expectancy. Anya put forward a version of the immortal snile regeneration, and Rose denied that life years can be stepped for, but not for their own continuation. Thank you for the useful information. Ruse turned and threw that for real treatment it is necessary to master the lodal schemes of monocirculation. The girls only looked at nothing. Walking a long corridor, Rose thought that the mysteries of the resurrection and immortality are still vague, so you should meet again with an immortal girl and explore everything thoroughly. Meanwhile, the collection stood on the balcony, grunting that Sneal had forced him to monitor the infant, though he did not believe in his submission. He has been copied for 3 months and has not found anything special. The title of Baby Mudrits is constantly rotating in the head. Sneal said that the baby suddenly appeared in Barante, where adventurers miraculously gain unheard of power. He is said to be killed by Lord Goblins on his own. A maniac of Zeljas caught and tamed a demon. A baby's a real beast. The collection broke his head where he saw this face until a familiar silhouette fell into the sight of his lens. He froze. He remembered that the baby was able to kill even Sneal himself, and more than once. Folded quickly, the gathering exclaimed that he was a passionate fan of Baby Mudrets Roos, which was genuinely surprised by the boy. He was enthusiastically shouted that the rumors of the exploits reached the Bagara, where Roos is famous for his brilliant magician and a fighting machine without equal. To appease the hero, the collection poured compliments his features and proclaimed sincere admiration. The cheerful Roos laughed loudly and praised the fan for its excellent taste. He came close and stated that he would destroy the evil of the city. He suggested that the gathering look at the hero in the case with the maximum fan service. Fan was delighted. Roos explained to the girls that a shy fan was going with him. The fauna praised the taste of the gathering, and Anya stated that it was worth admiring not a disgusting boy, but by her. The collection was naked. Pete was at the head. Do they really go to look for rebels right now? He thought. If the headquarters were found, Sneal will immediately consider him a traitor. And exposure to the guild also means death. Suddenly, a guy exclaimed that the gathering was from the rebels. Everyone was grievous because he seemed the faithful ally. With a slight smile, Ruse asked where the base of the rebels, because he wants to leave the autograph right on their wall. The rebel looked around and saw the Trinity in the bags. A girl in a white dress with a stick, a tiny man, and a beauty in a provocative dress that blocked the way. The collection immediately recognized Fauna, Ruse, and Anya, shouting that the plan had failed. They had been jumped from the beginning. Fauna only confirmed the obvious. Swinging, Ruse again asked the rebel about the place of the base. He seeks not only to destroy the enemies of the guild, but also to study in detail the immortal girl. The collection cut off that he would not give out anything. The rest of the rebels already know about captivity, so it is worth betraying. They will be dealt with without hesitation. Anzurali noted, if you destroy all the rebels, no one will punish. Collection reminds that this is a whole union of guild enemies. He adds, a lot of bases. Some do not know about himself. Even after the fall, one another would make a sentence. He saw the rebellion. Ruse firmly says that there is no choice, and asks Fauna and Ange. The girls felt right away. Something scary will happen. On the corridor of Ange, whisper about the evil premonition. The Fauna agrees. Inside the Ruse with a roast, with a fair-to-face with a trembling gathering, and ordered to open a safe. Tingling with one hand, Ruse soothes. He is good and will not kill, even if he begs. The collection is lost in guesses. Ruse gets a short wand with a strange end, similar to the cotton. The rebel only clicks, not seeing the threat. When the gathering seizes whether it is a cotton magic wand, Ruse activates the device. The pestle wings are opened at the tip. More than 10 slippery tentacles of different forms are slipped out of the hole. Wavy, blade, with fangs. The collection screams, imagining them. Ruse explains that the fine-tuning and life support system does not allow the victim to die. The tentacles are quietly squeezing in the background. Having attached a baby face, he proposes to try away. The collection dies with horror and agrees to issue a base. Ruse sighs. People are constantly forbidden to use the invention. He promises, only the tip. The collection begs because everything comes out of the tip. The order is to start. Corridors roll inhuman screams, as if crying from another world. Meanwhile, Emily is surprised by the secret tunnel from the sewer in the dungeon. Mordia silently studies the scheme. He whispers that the guild did not know about such a move. Heine laughs. The base is hidden in the maze. The exhausted prisoner only clicks. Heine asks what they did with the collection. There are no visible wounds. Ruse squeezes. Slightly pammed. The rebel chained to the chair does not raise his head. Plinging into the palms, Ruse is interested. Snail is his boss? Who is she? This is the main question. The collection recalls Snail's warning of a terrifying baby, and only frown until Ruse threatens a new procedure. Then the tongue is solved. He says that a powerful girl appeared suddenly, immediately killed the previous leader, and became the founder of the current organization. Ruse asks her immortality, but the gathering really knows nothing. It was with her arrival of the rebel case that the rebels began to roll. Ruse became interested in the story. Zebra remembered that at first the girl was stubborn and did not listen to anyone, as if God herself. Ruse clarified whether it has changed. The exhausted rebel was soaking that the girl did not look human at all. He added with a trembling in his voice. She called herself the founder of the movement, but in her words was something so strange that everyone became awkward. Did not have time to agree. The collection exhaled the last time. Ruse only came to realize that he was silent forever. Before him, an exhausted body was hanging. The rebel died without a single blow of the baby, and everyone was stunned by another, sudden death. Ruse mentioned the warning of Lan. The deadly oath destroys the one who issues the secret. It seems that there was even more powerful spell. The fauna suggested that Snail had a demonic curse. Ruse skeptically noted that it is too mediocre magician for such. The infant wondered. If the information was sealed, it would be impossible to know the coordinates of the base. Therefore, it is more difficult. Someone suggested a real puppet is not among the rebels. The detachment was alert, preparing for a new strategy. Ruse suggested that he immediately go to the hiding place, which he called Zbra, and ask Snail directly. Morty asked to postpone the hike. He pleaded to give 3 days, and Ruse replied that the decision was not final. There was no hurry. Morty explained. The Ark will join as soon as they find the base, but now taken by Congress, so he will leave later. He added, Arch and Snail associates the personal past, so the request to postpone the hike is almost a requirement. Ruse agreed silently. Ange also wanted to go, but her swords were still being repaired after a battle with a fiery golem. A week has passed, and weapons are still in the forge. Fauna suggested that the workshop was overloaded with adventure seekers, so a delay. Having considered, Ruse decided to postpone the theme of Sneal and rebels. There is a gap, and while you can move another course, Fauna wondered where exactly. The teacher replied that he wanted to reward them and get them in the blacksmith on a new, stronger weapon. To her astonishment, why not just in the store? A baby with an innocent smile said, "The main mother of the machine, the rest he will do himself." Turning for the horn, they heard the hammer and the smell of hot iron, and then, an angry male shouting from the workshop. The angry client demanded to mow his sword, and the silky blacksmith laughed. It is enough to look at the blade to grasp all his sins. The blacksmith waved, "Weapons will cry if she forges her for such a weakness." An angry client swung a blade, shouting the name of the zone, but in a moment he flew out of the workshop of the head. Zeta threateningly shouted, called it a slippery slimmer, and forbade even to approach here again. Meanwhile Ruse, staring the map, chose the smithy of the wedding. The Fauna wondered whether she was really cool, and she laughed. The mistress, they say, was famous not only for skill, but also with an impressive bust. Hein listened to the conversation and clarified that Zeta was a virtuoso of the priests. Her work is perfectly carried out and perfectly balanced. Emily added that the craftsman is so inventive that he will once break her own hands. But the pursuits are light and extremely sensitive. Morty confirmed that even the Ark wears a sword, a surprised younger, and her braid, in joking, is stronger than a steel wire. Anya was red, catching a hidden hint in praise, strong hands and hair. Roos ran his finger on the map. Here then to the left, and we are almost near the workshop. A hammer-like building appeared around the corner, just what they were looking for. Suddenly a boy with mohawk flew out of the door. Then it was difficult for Zeta. Her eyes were anger. She thundered, "You are ignorant in handling weapons. Get out until all your fingers broke." Going closer, Roos greeted politely. They are adventurers and looking for new weapons. Zeta was blunting and spreading her hands. "Who is and what should I need?" She invited inside. The indignant client grunted that his words did not listen. Zeta cut off. "You are not like a seeker." With a cold look, she advised to learn to evaluate the strength of the enemy before rushing. The guy realized that the newcomers were much stronger. Seeing Roos, he screamed of the flying chatter. The Fauna shrugged. In their world, it does not happen. Zeta looked at the baby in surprise and quickly took herself. And is this a reason for panic? The guy with Iroquois, as soon as possible, went to buy a kitchen knife for his mother. Zeta, sitting on the boxes, waited for serious orders. The walls of the workshop covered shiny masterpieces. Swords, spears, cathages, stairs and shields, each with their own character. "Stroke," Rose asked if all her work was. Zeta proudly nodded. "He releases anything, from a sophisticated rod to a two-handed battle blade." The Fauna froze with grip. Zeta, gleaming her teeth, ordered the wishes to be clearly formulated. She releases the strongest weapons for them in a perfect state. Ruse, with a showy arrogance, replied that it was unnecessary. He came not for ready blades, but for a completely different purpose. For the first time in the practice of the craftsman, the client said this. He explained that he wanted to create weapons for girls on his own, and sausage hands do not allow, so the Zeta should forge strictly behind his drawings. At the same time, the infant warned, "No amateur." The craftsman was anger, because some baby dared to indicate her by humiliation. She swung his strong hand, for the image, in the face, and she was preparing to do. But Roos immediately changed the expression to the angelic, puppet eyes burst. Having published the sweetest voice, he pleadedly explained. After following his instructions, Zeta will throw the perfect weapons to the girls. But the fist was already flying. A heavy blow to the plump face made him like a pillow, and the baby stabbed over the threshold. After flying a few meters, he theatrically crossed his hands on his chest. Intact. Zeta stated that she would not tolerate his talent, though from babies, though from adults. However, looking at her own hand, she found broken fingers. Ruse got up and assured that he only recognized her skill and, if she accepts an order, would settle misunderstanding and heal the injury. When the limb returned to normal in a second, Zeta, glazed, did not realize how possible. The infant emitted an aura, similar to an arch. Ruse calmly laid out a technical plant. For paired swords fauna, lightweight hardy blades that are easily wrapped in wind and contain runes of the god of wind. For Ange, gloves with claws of the earth's dragon that exacerbate powerful strokes without shaking the joints. The craftsman with the eyebrows grunted that such requirements are able to meet only one of the only mineral in the world. Ruse asked if it was about Orachok. Zeta was surprised that the infant knew about him. It was from that metal that the Ark was forging, and from the time of the ancient raid in Bagara did not find new deposits. Roos noticed a fragment in the frame and asked if it was Oehulk. The girl confirmed. A piece is invaluable, and the knife will not. Then the infant ordered that try to taste the stone. The live staff licked, remembering the taste of the hot orange, which shocked the Zeta. Sitting on the staff, Roos announced, "They retreat in search of a veil of Ori, and while you can chat." Fauna tried to start a conversation about her favorite color, and Zeta only shrugged. Bruce joked that for the first time he went to the dungeon alone. Bakamut replied that I was glad to have such a first time with him. And the guy grunted. The infant emphasized, he goes to dungeon not as an adventure seeker, but as a teacher who seeks to reward students, and nothing will distract him. Bahamut gave rise to the city walls, heading to the caves, where, according to legends, or the Oris, Zeta with a fucking face assured that they do not get to Orakalcom. They do not return alive. Fauna mentioned that common sense with their teacher is not friends. The craftsman noted ironically, a stupid mentor is even more stupid students. She explained that Ori Halcom lived changes the maze, building traps to drive away the producers. The metal itself creates a fortress of mechanisms, and ruse with a ramming through all obstacles. Each trap is deadly than the previous one, like a level of hellish game. The guy overcomes them without slowing down. Aura Calcoma Golemas are born next to the ore. Even S-class with them is difficult, but baby is a little thing. Then it alternates with Omega Gave from pure gold, which almost killed the Arch himself. You can only survive the monster. Even after the victory, it would take a week to cut the ore from the breed, and Roos was already standing near the main layer. He knocked out the wall with a spear and, winning the Bahamote, ordered the treasure, a little sad that the adventure ended so quickly. Bahamut pulled the crystal with sharp teeth, and the lightning raid ended. The baby threw Orichalcum to the safe. He was satisfied with. It was more fun than expected. It's time to return to the blacksmith. Looking back, Roos found a huge hole in the wall. The dungeon, as if thanked, just opening the exit. In the workshop he posted ore on the table. Zeta was numb. Get Orichalcum in a few hours? Fauna and Angela Sala. Pari won. Anj explained. They argued if the baby would get ore a day. In the event of a failure, the girls would work for free in the forge. Success gives Roos 20 minutes of will with breasts of the Y. The conditions are fulfilled. The baby can enjoy the prize. Roos, glowing, asked if he heard everything right. The craftsman nodded, taking defeat. Zeta straightened, hands along the body, ready to pay the debt. The baby jumped and hugged her, exclaiming, as if finding the most precious treasure. The buzzing through his teeth swore her own lightness. And all this in trouble, even on Tuesday. She grunted that stupid couples have even more meaningless consequences, so students of a stupid teacher are suitable for care. In euphoria, Rose exclaimed that he was punching for Fauna and Anja's best weapons in the world. The baby happily emphasized that he was lucky with such students, though Anj considered him insidious. 3 days have passed. A detachment to catch the rebels went to the underground drains of Begardi headed by Guildmaster, 4 S-class seekers and 12 fighters of the rank B. The Ark checked readiness. Everyone confirmed the military power. The warrior whispered that among the composition there are ARC, Gain, and Emily in combat armor. That is, 2 S-Rongi candidates. The partner suggested that the mission would be easy, but another skeptical. When such forces are involved, then the enemy is equivalent. The young fighter reminded that Sneal allegedly withstanded the attack of the Arch, reborn from the flap of the flesh. Senior warriors did not want to believe rumors. Gain's annoyed chatter was rushing, warning not to sow panic. Emily, thoughtful, confessed that she was feeling wrong. The team was progressed by a maze known as the Museum of Winter, when monsters suddenly burst into suddenly. The warriors wondered where the crowd of the monster took up. Roos explained that the protective barrier once stood here, but the rebels were removed to keep the monster's approach. Fauna suggested that the rebels had already been dozing, but Gain was parked on timely attack by a Rusaloid creature, and stated that the enemy plans to exhaust them on the road. Meanwhile, the enemies huddled deep into the base, relying on the endless waves of monsters. The Fauna grabbed a new sword. A thin, almost transparent blade slid. She whispered enthusiastically. Like a sword from the wings of a grandmother, Zeta confirmed. It is air blades of grandmothers from Orichal, at the same time flexible and strong. For Anj, the craftsman amazed the gloves. The claws of the Stone King, capable of strengthening every impact. In one stroke, Anj spread a giant creature. The gloves, absorbing the Earth's energy, multiplied the power of several times. Zeta noted with a smile. One weapon is ultra-type, the other is rude, and both meet the impossible requirements of small genius. Bruce praised his work, and Rose confessed that he did not hope for the young craftsman to perform everything so perfectly. Zeta, slightly discounted, recalled her young age, and Rose winked. The more valuable your skill. He added that he has another important assignment to her, and he went into the air. While the detachment restrained the monster, the Ark was charging the blow. After reaching the base, they found devastation. Overturned tables, broken bottles, broken chairs. Ruse dropped his eye and noted, for the rebel staff, the choice of place, to put it mildly, so. Emily recognized the cruel warrior Kroll, expelled from the guild together with Zebra. Now he was avenging, joining the rebels, spreading the forbidden potion and dependent on it. Suddenly, Snail arose in the passage and the whole group immediately directed her views on a new opponent. With a cunning smile, she noted that the Ark was in vain forces, avoiding the fighting with the monsters on the road. Not letting him answer, Ruse knocked the arch from his feet and sneaked into Snail, proclaiming that before them, an enemy was able to restrain even elite seekers. The servants rushed to the baby, reproaching for the intervention, and Ruse, ignoring them, joyfully noted harmony in his own soul. He added that if the Ark was tied into battle earlier, chaos would only have grown. Snail has admitted that the boldness and power of the little one really suffered horror. The doctor examined the pendant, surprised by its naturalness. Snail kindly handed the trophy for storage. Suddenly she dissolved in the air. Gaines suggested that Snail had moved through a hidden body share. Roose advised to concentrate on the enemies here and now. The maze is full of dangers. The strength of the back cannot be left. He explained that everything was calculated. Zeta was amazed, capable of withstanding his magic repeatedly. In the city, in the meantime, two passers-by argued, trying to understand the appointment of a mysterious artifact related to Snail. Zeta, hearing them, annoyed in annoyance that she did not know why the device was when the stones on the pavement suddenly tied. An explosion came, and the frightened people looked back to the detonation. Bahamut escaped from the ground, flew into the sky, and scared the crowd, which was frozen with narrow streets. The giant dragon's silhouette crashed the building, leaving the ruins and increasing the panic of the locals. Bahamut noted that Snail is immortal, but Bruce reminded that she was not yet struck, so everything ahead. Snail flew and ordered the dragon to stop, and Bahamut met her with an inclement force. He directed the spell directly into the girl, and the explosion threw her through the wall of the neighboring building. Snail pierced the wall and disappeared inside, leaving dust clubs and spiderwebs in stone. Snail was angry with the wreckage and exclaimed that Bahamut knew pity. Meanwhile, a new clash phase began in the rebel camp. The enemies drank a potion that sharply increased their power. One of them exclaimed that he was experiencing an endless inflow of energy. Emily noted that the potion increases magical figures, but too rapidly. Roose explained that they were ended, because they have already exceeded the boundary of human opportunities. He added that he did not believe that these bandits are ready to die, but the enemies did not retreat. The potion dulled their consciousness. Looking at the stage, Rose said it was a pathetic sight. Then he came forward, attracting the fauna. He asked the fauna to apply a certain spell, and added that with new blades, he would be able to enhance the effect. No one but two of them understand what it was about, but the girl immediately activated the spell. The spell was called Torn the Rod. It immediately disrupted clothes from the target. Ruse's friends were shocked. Ons was confused, Gain was surprised, and Emily looked at enemies with interest. Ruse activated another spell, the Restoration of the Manual Contour, which caused the victims of the attraction to the opposite sex. Friends were outraged, but Emily became more interesting. The enemies did not understand what was happening to them. One of them exclaimed that it was light. Ruse explained that their circuit was filled with potions, and he simply unlocked the stream like a clogged pipe. After the pause, he added that it would have led to the exhaustion, but now they won without bloodshed through their mind. He exhaled and said it was time to move on. One of the warriors suggested finding Snail, because she went to the guild, but did not have time to end the opinion. He moved all the dream, and they fell on the floor. Roose returned to sleeping comrades, took Emily's magic wand, noting that he had just borrowed it. When he flew into the air, a silhouette appeared, which called everything that happened a solid problem, and aimed the sword directly on Roose. The stranger asked what the guy intended, but Rose did not know it. It was an arc. Roose turned to him, calling him his grandfather, and said he wanted to sleep. Ark asked why it was all. He didn't understand whether a friend or an enemy. At that moment, Goblin stood behind. Warsha realized that Rue's right. Goblins learned to act coherently and sit. When asked by Ark, or is it really Sneal, Roos answered the question. Why he thinks so if he has killed her for a long time. He added that even if he wanted to sleep everyone, it is impossible to forget. It is impossible. The Ark firmly said that it was it, the same as many years ago. Roos remembered how he went to the dungeon on Orakalk and asked who was still there. The Ark replied that then she saw her dead body, and it was not reincarnation, not regeneration, but some magical fake, which only copying the appearance. Bruce suggested that her true goal was to eliminate 2 elite seekers. Ark asked if it was the beginning of the end of the world. Sneal stood, shaking the dust. Bahamut approached her. She asked how to name a creature created from many images. She added that such a creature lived due to the impressions that others were fed. Roos suggested that Sneal is the embodiment of the impression of the power, which was the power. Ark was surprised. He lowered the sword and began to ask about the origin of the creature. Roos replied that she is a magical creature formed from human ideas, and the Arch asked whether it seemed strange to him. He explained that there was something wrong with rumors. They spread too quickly. And if it can still be explained by the guild, how did the simple locals know everything? Roos began to list her legendary qualities. The founder of the rebels, withstands the strokes, restored from a piece of flesh, one arcsight. He noted that the more people believed in her power, the stronger it became. And he turned to the Arch. Even if he did not overcome it, all the rest will believe it. Then everyone will decide that even the ARC will not be able to win it. And Sneal will turn into something immensely monstrous. When asked by Arch how to explain its regeneration, Roos answered, "It does not regenerate, but simply becomes a look created from many impressions again. If you kill it, but everyone will consider it immortal. It will remain alive. And to destroy such a creature is simply physically in vain." Roos added that he was still unable to disassemble her magical formula, so it was only a hypothesis. The Ark confessed that ordinary methods did not work here. After the pause, the Ark looked around and said that he understood the idea of Rose. He fell asleep people to silence Sneal's image in their consciousness. Roos nodded approvingly. Roos explained that terrible rumors are just rumors. They disappear when they face reality. But panic rose on the streets. People shouted that the black dragon went crazy. One exclaimed that he was larger than the house. The other, that he shoots rays. The third saw the dragon torn the houses out of the ground. The fourth shouted that it was the end. Someone shouted that the dragon killed a girl. The other is that he crushed it. Third, what he burned. The fourth, that torn into pieces. Then the Ark asked Roos to show him Golem. He promised that there would be no problem. Roos hesitated, but he nodded and agreed. He added that if something goes wrong, he will immediately drink the Arch. They moved to a destroyed city. Bakamut added that if Roos betray her as she sleeps, she would not be congratulated. But she did not have time to contract. She fell asleep from fatigue. Roos felt anxious. He saw Sneal again. And he acknowledged that she remains extremely dangerous. If his hypothesis is true, it is impossible to defeat it by usual means. Full of determination, Roos turned to Sneal, asking for her condition and staring at the frozen, the non-emotional eyes of a creature standing immobily like a fireplace statue. In a monotonous, mechanical voice, she repeated, "I am the founder of the rebels," as if a doll, created to complete a single program. Roos mentioned the warning of the collection and stopped. This is the primary installation of the doll. The Ark tried to understand what would happen when all the impressions of her disappeared. The same thing, Sneal, reduced the distance until it appeared very close to the Arch, as if a shadow that clings to its creator. The Ark loudly reminded that she founded the uprising, destroyed the seekers and merchants, turning the dungeon into her own closed sand. He added that it was only a hypertrophied ego that protects the fortress shelter, not wanting to let others in his maze. The lightning movement of the Arch's sword snorted with the vagina, and in one stroke drowned the body of Sneal in half. But instead of blood on the floor, a soulless wooden doll. Another face, deprived of life and magic. "End!" Rose exclaimed, feeling the illusion of the impression that fueled the creature. The walls were thundered. The dust flooded the hall, and the vault came in a craft. The underground structure was pouring as if a map of sand. Roos confessed. All this was an experiment to test the hypothesis of a creature from human ideas. Curiosity took the mountain over care. Bruce, waving his hand, reminded that after experiments, he would have to be cleaned. He climbed into the air, preparing a cleaning spell. Roos regretted. "It is not immortal magic. but a bizarre way to create golem. However, experience has been invaluable for future research. The Ark, holding the sword, asked the baby himself who he really is if he was able to control such processes. A small appearance of a sweet body just smiled cunningly, hinting that the appearance is only a shell, and the essence is deeper. He added that there was one important detail to find out, and cut off the phrase, feeling the strange cold inside. Suddenly, the forces left him. Ruse fainted, struck by unexpected magical fatigue, which exceeded the boundaries of this body. Having come to his senses, he warned the girls to keep alert. In this condition, he will not be able to put his shoulder. The guy realized the stolen vitality served as a building material for the impressional golem, and its further gathering could put a new threat. One of the warriors woke up and found that the body was not obeyed, as if it were paralyzed by the remains of a pernicious elixir. The consequences were still signs. The warrior, barely falling, grabs a flask with water, eagerly drinks to the last drop and, throwing a vessel, tries to understand how many days he spent in forgetful and how the environment has changed. He is informed that Sneal is defeated, but consciousness faces the inner resistance, because the monster remained immortal in memory. The brain is feverishly looking for a new plan of action. A disturbed warrior must believe the word, but threatens to a friend of revenge in the event of betrayal. The atmosphere is exacerbated when it finally recognizes the satellite. It is a Modian. The officer is disappointed with the summary. All efforts were set up to a few detentions. Zeta lies with the discharge of the ankle, and the city with guilds seem to not notice chaos. Waking up from the raising spells of Ruse, the Seekers return to the guild, pulling the exhausted rebels. The Ark reports on the emergence and death of the impressional golem, igniting of general interest. Soon the hall is filled with a festive noise. Some complain that the battle has fallen, others praise the arch, which caused a decisive blow. While the hall is buzzing, Ruse sleeps in the guest room. Friends gathered around. The fauna is amazed at such a strong sleep, because the baby usually almost does not rest. Suddenly, he rapidly picks up and jumps on the Anj, listing all his own feats: battle with monsters, restarting the monocirculation of enemies, immersion of allies into sleep, and the use of new artifacts. Anj is indignant that so many events could even exhaust an adult magician, not to mention the baby, but asks everyone to listen to her reasoning. Fauna acknowledges that he knows little about the true essence of the teacher, while Anj feels an unpleasant older raid of gloomy cruelty in the infant, which contrasts with his appearance. At this point, the room enters the Mahdi, quietly welcomes the audience, and, not noticed until the last moment, smiles, which affects the vigilant Fauna. He asks the Arch for a conversation, caring for the girls to relax after a grueling day. Fauna acknowledges that hunger does not rest. On the terrace, under the night sky, the Ark immediately asks what is the matter. Morty begins the story of its origin and history of the city. It turns out that he is a native of these lands. After the opening of the dungeons, the maze has been explored for centuries, and his parents, the elf research and a local young man, met exactly there. Another 100 years have passed before Mordia was born. Arch's childhood crossed with the presence of Sneal, whose power seemed unhealthy. Morty recalls that 18-year-old researchers were able to go through a maze, which the elves have studied for 200 years, and recognizes that it was already clear how dangerous Sneal is. The Ark leaning over the railing, remembering as Sneal believed invincible. But now he is convinced that her power was able to break. He thanks Mordia for the progress and rebuilding of the city, although he modestly points out that it is not just old fairy tales, but living testimonies of change. The Ark smiles thoughtfully, agreeing that even legends have a real foundation, and today's victory begins a new page of city history. Night silence wraps the terrace while two veterans are discussing the way forward, realizing that there are many secrets of dungeons ahead, including an unexplained source of the stolen vitality. Suddenly, Muid strikes the Arch from the back, immersing the blade between the blades. However, the ARC does not lose rest. Arctural asks what he is doing. Morty confesses. The plan was different, but now there is a chance that there will be no longer. Ark is the winner, Sneal, not a veteran, ready for a calm old age. Morty raises the rod and coldly reports that the hero of the ARC will never grow old again, will not weaken and die. At this point, the Fauna with a new sword appears in the darkness and rapidly attacks the traitor. The Ark silently watches the events without having time to intervene. He understands that the decisive collision is approaching. Fauna explains that something was wrong with the behavior of Moria. He is amazed, because he hid the thirst for murder with sorcery so that no one suspects anything, even the Ark. He threatened that she was now an end. After all, the arc had to become the basis for a magic doll to keep everything secret. The plan was to work perfectly. No one would notice anything. The fauna replies that the truth will sooner or later go to the surface, and if publicity destroys its plan, it will use it. Morty asks why she did not immediately run to others. The fauna is hesitant with the answer. In the end, she says that Moria is probably as strong as her teacher. Even a moment of confusion, it would be enough to kill her. Morty smiles and says that she will check her decision. He is ready to fight, as a long-lived, hardened as a mortal one who has trained all his life. At this time, the Rue, a reincarnated baby, hangs in space, not understanding where he is. Darkness, silence, lack of fear, only unknown. Meanwhile, Emily asks Ans if she has milk, but it is indignant. Emily assumes that Ruse, who sleeps so long, is just hungry. The girls remember that from time to time, he pulled a bottle from the subpara and drank from it. Emily confesses that she does not know what to do. Jane suggests that the owner of the pharmacy has recently become a father. He may have milk. Emily agrees. The idea is good. Hein remembers Fauna. He has no idea where his girlfriend has gone and whom she now carries on her shoulders. Fauna realized. Morty dreams of creating a golem impression, using the arch as a nucleus. The worst part for him would be to see the hero disposed of. The girl realized it is not necessary to beat in the magician, but in the crowd and the building, to all notice betrayal. She was measured to roll the ceiling with a whirlwind. The windflow spell licked the storm, and the stone slabs came in a craft. The arc, shaking the fauna in tension, grabbed it and pulled it into a safe place. The gust of Viri shook her clothes, leaving his torn flaps. Morty glanced in surprise. Arc asked Fawn if she received an affirmative nod. The magician poured praise. The girl punched the protective seals of the structures, and the swords from Orichalcum were at an altitude. Even the wounded ARC again rushed to save people. Fauna realized the difference between the ordinary seeker and a true recognized hero. Those who deserve to live. She froze. The border between them became obvious. In the city of the pharmacist, a baby rouse is rocking, giving him milk. The baby eagerly sucks, causing a woman to be moved. Emily apologizes for his care, explaining that the baby is just hungry. The fauna is embarrassed. The girl adds that Rose is approaching a woman. A strange, lady grimace appears on her face, as if all the world's lust is concentrating in one look. Gain is distrustful of whether he is so frightening. Fauna is about to explain. Yes, remembering all the feats of Ruse, she swoats from mixed feelings. Gain is surprised by this instant metamorphosis. Emily jokes that it is the aroma of the infant that has not yet been weaned from the breast. She had no idea about such details until she saw everything with her own eyes. She adds that after critical exhaustion, Mana Ruse seems to have become even more small. For the first time, she sees how the mana deficiency changes the personality itself. Somewhere in the inner world, the real Ruse is amazed. What happens to his true I? He feels as if he had already died and returned again. He thinks, if the body is tied to the mana, where does it flow after the cast? Remember the theory of evaporated Manu in the air, and is alert. The anxiety is increasing. It is necessary to get out of here as soon as possible, but it is lost, remembering others, and not understanding whom it means. Meanwhile, Fauna still holds defense. Morty, with one blow, throws it to the other edge of the balcony. The Ark instantly runs up, catches the body, and exclaims her name with fear, fearing for the life of a brave student. Morty, smiling, assures that he will give the Arch of Immortality, which did not obey even the great sage of Aristotelia. But the voice of the fauna is heard behind the Bakshi mocking the magician, la, armed. Then the girl throws the question. Why then is the future eternal hero still alive, despite the blow to the back? The fauna confesses that she was late and afraid that the arch would be dead. But the hero is miraculously held, though he was attacked by an experienced magician from the back. Morty did not expect such a logical court. The girl continues. Sneal's goal was defeated, so the magician plan is wrong. Morty grows, orders to silence, but the fauna does not stop. He saw the end of an immortal copy and understood the mistake. Deciding that Morty is distracted, the fauna recalls the first winding of the teacher and prepares a smooth flow to discard the magician. The memory of the mentor warms the heart for a moment. She wants to grasp the more secrets of magic. The stroke of the monocle is deadly, but suddenly the shining shield reflects the attack, and the fauna remains intact. The invisible defender assures that she can learn as much as he wants, because magic is the only thing he gives away. The voice turns to her, like masters. The enemy fades. Fauna sees that in the air the ancient rod, Lindwomen, who has long served Ruse. Lindwar apologizes for the delay. While the gentleman slept, he barely woke up from a deep sleep. They have not been seen for a long time, he adds, and Fauna asks whether the artifact can really speak. The rod replies cold, to discuss nothing with ordinary girls, but he will not allow the student of the owner to die. It is time to act. Morty is hissing. It can't be a real Lindowust. A chance 1 on a million. However, the rod confirms the transmission of the Ms. student's possession. The Ark is surprised to be aware that the legendary artifact of the big city is in front of them. The element of the wind demolves stones and beams. The spell is concentrated at one point. Morty raises a dense barrier so that the storm does not destroy it. Lindwar sighs. He has not yet resumed all his strength after hibernation. In a dragon form, I would solve everything instantly. But the man is missing. He murmured that the master has not woke up yet. What is the busy baby, Mag? Meanwhile, in the pharmacist's house, Fauna, holding the wounded shoulder, is raised. Morty mocks. Why such a sword if he does not get his own strength? But in the eyes of the girl, determination flashes. And the sorcerer, embarrassed by the unbrokenness of the rival, finally hesitates, not understanding where she comes from so much spirit. Suddenly Morty realized that Lindwomen disappeared from the field of view and asked Fauna where the rod went. He specifically clarified, even with a powerful artifact, such a weakness would not be able to stop it, and was already going to impose a new spell. Fauna immediately calls Lindwomen. The staff appears and unfolds a translucent barrier around it. Why are you afraid of Voladarko? Asks the artifact calmly. You are my hostess and the best student of Master Roos, adds Lindwost. It is time to enter your own page in history. The girl remembers the day when Zeta gave her new swords, and the words of Ruse. Do you want to master a really strong reception? Then she nodded. The mentor was able to hit the eerie strongly, the same magic she knew only superficially. Fauna explained that if the enemy mag is convinced that she is only a sword, he will not expect a devastating spell. It will be the effect of suddenness. Roos was surprised, but admitted, against an experienced sorcerer, strengthening his own spell. A standard, though risky tactics. Bruce then joked that no one hopes from the fencing officer magical surprises, so the chance is to take advantage of. The baby wanted to deny and then said, there is one option, but he is painful. Then he remembered duel technique. The flag of the wind, to consciously take a blow to the element, to absorb the residual manu and instantly return it, reinforced by dozens of times. Double sword. Wounds you, but the abuser shakes. Ruse has warned. Such an explosion can destroy an inexperienced magician. But sometimes there is no other way out. The fauna is clear. This is what you need now. She weighs. A direct blow to the wind is almost suicide, and hesitate neither time nor right. Finally, the girl turns to Lindwomen. Shoot me. I will try the flag. The staff is briefly agreed. The rod is shining. The powerful wind picks up the fauna. It orders Lindwar to take a blow to absorb the maximum of natural force. Skeesis gust breaks the air. A frantic tornado is formed around the girl. Morty does not understand what is happening, but it quickly tightens. The fauna beats itself to use the echoes of Mani, an ancient forbidden tactics. I got crazy, whispers, admired and scared at the same time. They have not seen such techniques for centuries. The injury is terrible, but if the fauna holds on, the reverse impulse will erase the mag. Morty hesitates. To stop or get. The wind goes out. Clothing is thrown on a flap. On the girl's body, bloody cuts, but in the palms of a concentrated whirlpool is pulsating, like a plasma blade, ready to break its barrier. The fauna causes the air Zashmorg, a whirlwind of clothing, and the arrow breaks into the muzzle. The spell breaks its protective barrier. The stunned magician does not understand how this funny attack punched the shield. Lindwast asks for a girl what a wonderful technique is. A high silhouette emerges nearby and, smiling, notes that the very fact that he says is already incredible. Most after death immediately dissolve and born again. He summarizes and explains that his existence violates the law of the universe, because he died, but again appeared among the living, without dissolving in the stream of mana. A scanty shift, which entails a huge distortion that Cosmos seeks to correct. Therefore, the universe tries to erase it. It would be easier to disappear now, but is that meaning? The answers are not heard. On a deep night, the ARC returns to the guild, seriously injured, breathing. Reports that Mordai created Sneal and spread the potion. Present shocked and filled with questions. The arc adds that he was helped by a girl with even swords. She may be dead. Someone notes, even knowing the guilty, grabbing a magician of this level will not be easy. The sheet is raised and firmly says that there is no other way. It will personally put an end. Asks to bring a sword. But at this point there is a naked fauna, pulling the tied muzzle. Shyly reports that she has won. The guild dies with surprise. Arc asks how she succeeded and what the rod in her hands. The fauna replies, "It is a teacher's staff. Without it she would not cope." Before starting the interrogation, everyone is unanimously asked to dress. They offer muzzle into shackles that block the manu and throw it into the raw prison. They will be issued later. Arc takes responsibility. The floor is noticed an almost empty flask, with the remains of a detrimental elixir. The Arc orders the offender not to resist. The potion only enhances the body and manu, but without a catalyst, it will not be possible to spell. "And what will you give you a sword if you do a B-class search for?" he adds, demanding surrender. One of the warriors passes the sword. He screams fiercely that not everything is over. The magician raises his hand, demonstrating the punishment, a formula that turns a weapon into a catalyst. But without the correct marks of beginning and end, the spell does not work. The catalyst remains a dead piece of steel. How to look: one finger is visible on the nail of the middle finger, and the other on the forearm. Only the Arc and fauna realized the idea. They rushed at the magician on both sides. But Morty struck his palm with his palm, threw katana sideways, and squeezed the cut off the limb in the other hand. His protection was the legendary Cage of Angel. The fauna from the acceleration crashed into an invisible dome. The Arc also crashed into the transparent wall. Everyone was locked inside several concentric barriers. The magician ordered to remain calm. He has a brilliant plan. Mortia threateningly announced he would destroy everyone, and having studied Lindwomen, he would create their copies. He still squeezed his crushed hand, assuring that until no one got scratches. In the narrow pupils, a cold rage shouted, "People have felt the barrier shrinking. A little more, and everyone will crush." From everywhere, the pleasage stopped. Lindwomen broke up the bustle, warning, "The situation is out of control." Fauna asked what he was leading. The magician with a long mustache exclaimed that he was not some untouched virgin and is not going to die quietly. Suddenly, the rin-rin-ring came from afar. Someone's voice was approaching. The silhouette came out of the darkness and, turning to the mustache, admired. "You really returned after everything. Incredible," he smiled. "The laws of the universe? But let themselves try to erase me. More honor than being personally cleaned by the cosmos itself, and it is not necessary to look." With a mysterious expression, he added that he would look forward to death from reality, and moved to the darkness. The stranger smiled and asked for the last time. "My name is Rose," he replied. The silhouette waved him and said, "See you in the next story." Somewhere in the city of Ange sat with a cup of tea, holding a babe. Another woman swayed her own baby and watched closely. Ange was annoyed with extra attention.